You know, I believe that society will never dream like me, never dream like me, blah, blah, blah. Society will never dream like me. And so I'm just using that as like an exhibit into how highly Ed seems to think of himself.
Yeah. I don't get the feeling that Ed has ever, small town Pennsylvania is one thing. I don't get the feeling that Ed has ever set foot in the country, nor in the city where the bums be meditating.
Yeah. And I mean, but this is the thing, and I'll get more into this, is that I didn't, like, now I hear that, I'm like, that's fucking dumb. But I didn't think that in 2003 because I was pretentious enough to think that I also would ride a Harley through the heart of danger and that I also would meditate with bums. I had something to teach them. Like, oh, let's meditate. I've meditated 3 times before. I went to a temple once. I know the way. You don't understand. I'm a white man. I only need to be shown things once.
Well, okay, so at least you didn't write this song. So there's that. You didn't go that extra mile. Ed had to.
Yeah, it was compulsive. Compelled beyond his will. Episode 11, recorded October 7th, 2021. Well, cool, dude. Howdy.
Howdy.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Nice. We took a week off.
Welcome back.
So it's October 7th. And so we're going to do we're just going to kind of shoot the shit and talk about like what we've been listening to recently, just kind of off of the cuff. Not like the normal homework kind of situations that we did.
Just sort of what you've been listening.
Yeah, what you've been digging on. And then because we did an episode on live like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
At this point, and the audio, we only got about half of it. And so we're going to kind of pick up where that left off. And so I'm kind of glad that it cut off because it cut off right before things started to go off the rails. And
I mean, when you get into the subject of Ed Kowalcyk, that can happen. So you can see how you got there.
Yeah. And so it was better for me to try to work it out and then to try to summarize my thoughts, because I think my thoughts came out as a bit of a mess on what we thought we were recording before the audio shit the bed. So I'm going to hopefully. So
it's one of those situations where you didn't fully have everything lined up that you wanted to get out there until you got into it.
Yeah, and looking back on it now, it was going to be impossible to have it all together because I made myself listen to their entire recorded output over the course of a few days. I was just punch drunk and angry, and I felt abused and
you'd seen some shit by that point.
Yeah, I was not in a good place. So but now that I have a little more distance from it, it'll be better. But yeah, we'll get into all of that.
Oof.
So
yeah, we will. Okay.
But yeah. So we'll just kind of like shoot the shit. So what have you been digging on the past few weeks?
What have I been digging on? A lot of the same shit I've been digging on for a while now, but
for the past 20 years.
So. I
just listened to Pink Floyd. There's that one. Wait, when you have Pink Floyd, do you really need any other records?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a band to say that about, Pink Floyd might be one of them.
Oh, go get fucked.
How dare you turn this around on me, son of a bitch.
One of these days, I'll get Pink Floyd.
I mean, yeah, it's. I don't know. Maybe, who cares? Who gives a shit?
I think they were just one of those. They're just one of those bands that was never going to really, really, really be for me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so because there's so many people. This is not you. I'm not including you in this.
No, this is if you're not a Tool fan and you come across a lot of Tool fans, I imagine you have the same sort of reaction.
Yeah. And then occasionally you'll run into the 1-2 combo, the Pink Floyd and Tool fan.
This guy.
No. But
No,
you're not.
I know what you mean.
You're not the zealot of
The Pink Floyd and Tool fan.
Yeah. You know, you're a guy who likes Pink Floyd and likes Tool a lot.
Yeah.
You don't think that those are the supreme end all pinnacles of sonic expression.
Yeah.
And
I don't think they're a way to live your life.
yeah, and you don't think that all other music should bow and cower at the foot that is the Floyd. And I've met those people. And so just when you run into someone who wants to talk to you about how great something is, you initially are going to have a little bit of like, dude, go get fucked. Like,
It depends on how hard they come on. Like how, it depends on how strong they're in, like how strong they leap at you.
yeah.
If they like if they bowl you over like a big dog might do, when he's happy to see you, and then just spitting facts about Maynard into your face, you don't want to hear. No one wants to hear that.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's just, and I don't know, that was sort of my whole like armchair, like sociological theory about it is that, just like Pink Floyd was never going to be something that I was really, really passionate about. Like that I was going to really be like, oh, dude, this. I mean, I got Dark Side of the Moon. I listened to it for like 2 or 3 weeks straight. College, I was like, this is a cool record. And then I moved on.
Yeah.
And so, but then but then if I run into someone who's pushing it, then now I'm going to have resistance to it. And the thing is it was never going to be for me.
Right.
That's sort of like my thesis behind it is that not all music is for everyone. But if you try to push something on someone too hard, they're gonna push against it.
That just goes for anything. I feel like I've had people try to push Rick and Morty on me. I don't know how many times, and I'm just like, fuck that shit. Don't care.
It's really good.
I'm sure it is. I'll never know.
Yeah, that is there is something to be said about enjoying things in a vacuum. And some people are just much better at coming upon things on their own. I'm able to enjoy Rick and Morty in a vacuum because the only person who ever said, man, Rick and Morty is great is Jet. And he was like, oh, that's my best fucking friend, so sure, man. Okay, cool. I'll check it out eventually. I was very ignorant of the temperature in the Rick and Morty fan base online presence, and it's like, y'all are toxic, terrible people.
Sure. And that's not even part of it for me. That's a wholly divorced from like, I just don't fucking think it's very funny from what I've seen.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Fair enough.
I'm weird with comedy though.
I see how it is, Robert. You're
Norm Macdonald and nothing. I don't laugh anymore, goddammit. That time is over.
The day that laughter died. Well, I know you haven't been laughing, but what have you been listening to?
Yes, been crying and listening to Mastodon lately.
Oh, those go together for me.
Do they?
Whenever I have to listen to Mastodon, I often cry.
Damn. Rough. Like a dog. Anyway, so I have been listening to Emperor of Sand.
Okay.
A lot recently, and that's their 2017 album.
So give me the timeline as how that relates to Crack the Sky for me, because that's my big Mastodon reference point.
So Crack the Sky was 2009.
Okay.
And then 2012 or 13 was The Hunter.
Okay.
I think you know that one to some extent.
That one had like much sort of shorter songs, more straight ahead.
Depends.
Okay. Never mind.
And then they had, a few years later, they had Once More Around the Sun.
Okay.
And then I think after, I forget which order it came in, either Emperor of Sand was next, or the EP, which is called something, Cold Hard Place or something like that. Cold Dark Place. But anyway, this is their latest full-length album.
Oh, okay.
And then turns out I didn't realize they had one coming out like in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sick.
They do.
I'd heard a couple of the singles for it. I just didn't know it was coming out so soon.
Yeah, that first single that I heard sounded really great.
Yeah. So, I put Emperor of Sand back on because the way it shook out for me was like, I really got into like Blood Mountain way back when, like 2006, I guess.
Right.
And then I sort of went back to Leviathan and really got into that as well.
Uh-huh.
And then as the new albums came out, I would check them out. Crack the Sky, though, much like you, like whenever I heard Oblivion, the first song off that album, I knew that was like, I knew they had done something different there.
So Cold Dark Place came out right after Emperor of Sand.
Okay, I knew they were very close.
Like 6 months later.
Cool, yeah.
So, okay.
But yeah, Crack the Sky was like a special album. It was like a crystallization of what they've been going for in a weird way, but also an evolution. Big prog rock, but still all the weird stuff that Mastodon does.
Right.
So that album is like the perfect Mastodon album, as far as I'm concerned.
Crack the Sky.
Crack the Sky.
Okay.
But it's also their most serious album.
Okay.
So
what is an example of Mastodon not being serious?
So I feel like they have you could take two paths. You can say, here is their serious song, or here is their kind of fucking around song in a weird way. And from each one of those, they fork again. So here's their serious song with like a fucking around feel to it. Or here's their serious song that's totally serious.
Okay.
And you get the fucking around song, it's got a serious feel to it. Fucking around song is totally fucking around.
Okay.
Right? So you put these in the categories. So some examples of that are like off of Blood Mountain, you've got stuff like, I think Circle of Sasquatch is one of them.
Okay.
Where it's like, it's like weird little licks that like, what are you guys doing? But you kind of make it work somehow.
Okay.
And there's some other stuff off that album. By and large, it's pretty serious. Crack the Sky also just like kind of a straight face the whole way through. It's like most of the lyrics are to do with like Braun's sister, and there's like a whole thread about like Rasputin. And it's a whole concept-ish sort of thing that loosely ties together. But it doesn't really, it keeps a straight face the whole way through. And then you get to The Hunter, and they got like fucking song about the creature from the Black Lagoon being sad.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Okay.
But that song is played straight, but the lyrics are totally like, what?
Oh, okay.
But then they have songs that are like off of Emperor of Sand. They have Show Yourself, like show yourself, like that one.
Okay.
And it's like a dance beat. It's like a weird swingy, not swingy, but like a dance song almost. And it's Braun singing, and it's all like, you know how his voice is like he cuts through in a way the other guys do not.
Okay.
But that is the one song on this album. Anyway, all that to say, everything since Crack the Sky has been like a sort of weird mix. And so sometimes you'll get the weird, goofy shit. Sometimes you'll get the Mother Lode, I think was one off of Once More Around the Sun. It was kind of like a goofy one. Was that the one with the video was like just girls twerking? One of the videos is just girls twerking and them playing the song.
I vaguely remember people being upset about this.
Yeah, probably.
I never saw the video.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty fucking funny. It's just them playing the song, and there's just girls twerking. That's cool. But I feel like this album is the first one since all that has happened, since all those other albums have come along, to like get back to just like a pretty serious, like here's just a solid serious album again. Okay. And that's what I like best from Mastodon. It's kind of weird because looking back on all this stuff, even when they do diverge into weird like goofiness territory here and there, they're still consistently good songs. in my opinion, they just don't all fit together all the time as an album. So sometimes I just don't feel like listening to those whole albums
I see what
all
you're
at the
saying.
same time. And I'm someone who listens to albums.
Right.
I always damn near always listen to albums.
Right. That makes sense to me. The only band that has ever been able to blend serious and not serious songs together and it feel like a cohesive album is System of a Down.
Yeah, they definitely do that.
That's
I'd have to think about that some more, but they are probably the best example of that.
that's the top of the mountain.
It's the example, yeah.
Yeah, of here's a song about pizza pie, and then here's a song about police violence. And,
Yeah,
and
here's a song about the prison system.
Yeah, and here's a song about existential dread or whatever. You know, it's just all and like, you know, maybe Charles Manson had a point or whatever. You know, like it's all, you know, and somehow it works seamlessly. So that's
Yeah.
that's rarefied fucking air is what I'm trying to say.
Got it.
In the hard rock metal world,
Definitely. Yeah.
at least, you know.
It's a weird thing. It's like, and when I first heard some of the song, like I think when I first heard Mastodon and heard Blood Mountain and heard some of the goofier sounding stuff on there, like this sort of out there zany kind of stuff, didn't really know how to take it at the time because I don't know, 2006. Was I serious about metal? Like I like Strapping Young Lad, and they have that vibe sometimes. I don't know.
That's, you know,
I remember taking it weird.
Yeah, we can talk about Strapping Young Lad in a second, or in a little bit, because that's what I've been listening to a little bit. But yeah, well, yeah, Strapping Young Lad is weird because it's so it's almost, yeah, I don't know. I'll address that in a minute, I guess. But yeah, like there is a disrespect for the genre or of the medium of being a metal band inherent in Strapping Young Lad. Of like Devin, and he talks about it in the podcast, in his podcasts, where his podcast is great and amazing, by the way. If you're the least little bit of a Devin fan, it's absolutely worth listening to. He just sort of will do one episode per album, and he just will spend 2 hours sort of just talking about the making of that album and that process and sort of, you know, what was going on. And anyway, it's amazing.
I've been meaning to go listen to those since you recommended them. Yeah,
so fucking good. But he talks about for City how almost like, wouldn't this be a great fucking joke for me to get all of this angry material out, to go record it at Steve Vai's studio, because I'm fucking mad at Steve Vai now because of how things went down with that tour and that first Steve Vai record I was on. And I'm going to be this stupid fucking weirdo kid who likes metal but isn't really a metal kid. But I'm going to flank myself with the 3 most legit fucking metal dudes that I can find, you know? Because Jed and Byron were in a band that he had played with locally up in Vancouver, I believe. And then he had met Gene in LA, like at a Machine Head show or some shit. And Gene was like, I really like heavy, it's a really heavy thing. And Dev was like, that's cool. I've got another record. Will you play drums on it? Gene was like, oh, I guess. And then he called Gene the next day and was like, do you remember saying yes? Gene was like, well, I guess I did. All right, I'm going to book studio time for 2 weeks. Is that okay?
Wow.
It's fucking banana sandwiches, right? So,
cool.
But most of their songs were the only time that their songs were not serious were when they got to New Black, I would say. I would say that all the songs on City, they might have been irreverent. They might have been, and even Alien. There's parts of Alien that are wacky.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what I mean. Like, there are different ways that it can be not serious. And the music on those albums is, for the most part, like deadly serious.
Right. On New Black, though, not so much.
Sure.
There's some sections on there where it's like just synth out big band sections. And it's like, okay, like And I mean, like, and that's what I was like, what do we mean when we say not serious? And it's like, do we mean like you're a metal band and you're smiling while you play this part?
Right.
Like what do we mean? But we know what we know when we hear it.
Yeah, it's kind of nebulous. Like, I don't know.
Like it's not metal. It's more than that. It's
kind of hard to explain.
There's like it like if it's playful, that's not quite it either.
I mean, the thing that makes it work for Mastodon, for example, is that they're clearly having fun doing it.
Right.
Like it's clearly what they want to be playing.
Right.
And it's good music. It's not the same as all the other stuff they've done. In fact, in some ways, it wildly diverges.
Yeah, I guess it's like if it fucking makes you laugh, you know? I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're getting at because there's fuck all nothing funny about. I mean, it was hilarious to see Strapping Young Lad live and to see Devin's performance as a frontman.
Yeah.
I think we were greatly inspired by that. I was like, oh, cool. You don't have to do the shit that everyone else does.
Right.
Thank God. And I want to see everyone get the fuck up. I want to see everyone turn around. I want to see everyone turn back around. I want to see everyone make a square. I want to see everyone hold up a triangle.
You guys get at the back of the room. I'm going to yell green light and you guys can come towards me. I'm going to say red light. You got to stop.
You got to stop. Rhombus on 4, motherfuckers. Like, these are all things that might or might not have been said during All Severed shows.
Pretty sure they were said.
But yeah, I mean, everything is deadly serious on City, on SYL, on Alien even the part, I mean, but there's parts on Alien that feel wacky and they're uncomfortable to listen to because it's a dude in like his early 30s I think that's how old he was then, singing about the shit that would upset an early 30-year-old, which is like having kids and shit like that. And if you're 20, you're like, this is stupid. Why is he yelling about Disneyland? But
I would probably yell about Disneyland.
I'll yell about it right now. But yeah, so I don't think that it made sense when we heard it at the time as much. But then on New Black, he was kind of like, well, I'm going to finish this record contract, but I'm done with this band. Mm. And so it was kind of just like, everything but the kitchen sink, so it wasn't as, because then he did like Ziltoid right after that. Like he had stored up some ridiculousnose.
Right.
But yeah, there was nothing funny about, you weren't laughing while those guys weren't laughing, or he wasn't laughing while he was tracking the vocals for Alien.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean? But I guess like,
I think for me, I guess what it actually is more of is, to borrow like a wrestling term, it's like they break kayfabe. You know what that means?
No.
So a wrestler has like a persona, and they have like a way that they are, like a way of being, a way of acting and talking to the crowd and the other wrestlers and all that shit.
Okay.
And so if the Undertaker is doing his thing, his Undertaker shit, and he takes his hat off and turns around and goes, "Hey man, did you catch the game last night?" He's breaking kayfabe.
What is this? What is kayfabe short for?
It's a word. I don't fucking know.
Okay.
It's some Tennessee wrestling bullshit. I don't know.
Okay.
Trust me, it's stupid as it sounds. You're right. It probably means something. I don't know. Anywho, that's what it is called in the industry.
I see.
So
in the biz.
So if a band who normally does things a certain way and acts a certain way,
I see,
does something that, goes against that.
Okay, sure.
They break character.
I see. So Mastodon doing a video with people twerking.
Yeah, or
is that,
or a song that sounds like "Show Yourself" because it's like
sure, yeah.
It's just very, very different to what they've done, but they're doing a good job at it, and they like it, and it's good, and I still like it. It just doesn't fit with the other stuff. You know what I mean?
There's a Black Sabbath song called, I think it's shit. Is it "Killing Yourself to Live"?
Oh, is this one of the later Sabbath songs, or is this
I think it's on.
this is Dio?
No.
Okay.
No. This is Ozzy.
Sabotage?
I think it's on the Sabotage record, which is low key one of my favorite records of all fucking time. But
I feel like there are a few Sabbath songs like that. There are definitely a few Ozzy songs like that.
yeah, but this one, like, it's the last track on the record, and it's just. Oh no, it's "Am I Going Insane?"
Oh yeah, okay.
Like-
I know that song. Yeah.
It's just like super synthy, like, intro.
Yes. When I first heard this, when I was like getting into Sabbath as a teen, like I didn't know what to make of that song.
Yeah.
Did not know. I think I had We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
The compilation. And that was on there somewhere. And I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, just it. I mean, in a way, like even Van Halen's "Jump" is almost that too. It's probably hard for us to, because we think of that as being so synonymous with the
Right.
band. But when you
At the time, in context.
yeah, or it's like this is fucking, it's just all synth. It's barely, is there any guitar in this song?
Yeah, I mean, was Ice Cream Man that on their first album? Kinda.
But yes, but also,
But it fit also.
there was a whole sort of almost big band swing thread through that first album
Right.
that I don't know is necessarily on their other albums.
That was yeah, it probably wasn't too much. I think they got it out there. That was very much a David Lee Roth thing, I think.
I mean, that's one of my favorite records of all time.
I
as
fucking
well.
love that album.
That's on the short list to me of the greatest rock and roll records of all time. I can't tell you what that list is, but I can tell you that record is on it, and I can tell you that Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction is on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe I'll think about it and let you know.
Yeah. But you're right. That didn't really show up on their other albums. Like, Diver Down is probably my other favorite Van Halen album, and it doesn't have shit like that, really.
Like Atomic Pump.
Atomic Pumpkin.
Here and yeah, we have the season of fall.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that just like that. And what I didn't realize is that whole like power shuffle thing, like that kind of thing. I mean, that's where Psycho Holiday came from 100%.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And so
I didn't really think about that, but through line is very clear.
1000%. That's what it is. The
Yeah.
only double bass shuffle you heard in the fucking 90s. Everyone thought it was going to be just like, oh, everyone's going to do this now. Nope. It's the first and last time you heard it.
People go, oh no, we're not doing that. You guys can have that one.
Because no one else could have done it and made it interesting.
Yeah, interesting against all odds.
What a great way to describe those first few tracks on Cowboys from Hell.
Yeah. Some of the last few as well, really, but
Yeah, true. So back to Emperor of Sand. So
yeah.
You feel that this is their first, or it was their first quote unquote serious record since Crack the Sky.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just go back to cohesive. It's their most cohesive.
Cohesive as an album.
Yeah, as an album.
I see. Because when you're sort of, what was it? Breaking Kayfabe?
Kayfabe. I need to see if this is a real word now.
Like-
I only know it in terms. Don't ask me why I know it. I know too much about wrestling, unfortunately.
Whenever you're breaking character, kayfabing, it's what you're saying is that it's difficult to make a cohesive record while doing that.
I guess it can be. I mean, it's weird because like all the songs that kind of do that on their other albums, I still like all those songs.
Right.
So it's not a question of like, well, you did a bad job here and here and here.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
No, I hear you, but it almost is like, well, I want to hear all those songs at the same time.
Maybe,
and I want to hear,
Yeah, in terms of cohesiveness, I think it does sort of, because I'm such an album-oriented listener, I think it sort of breaks the mood.
Yeah, that kind of happens to me a little bit with Ghost, where I love all of their stuff, but I'm sometimes in a mood for I just want that real, just give me that poppy shit.
Right.
Just give me that radio rock Ghost. Give me that praise and worship that suits me kind of Ghost. And you know, and they have like those tracks are interspaced throughout their records. You know, it's not a whole record of just that.
Right.
So, but their albums are their albums do have a really good flow to them on the whole, though. So, not going to talk shit on that. That prequel record is, I think, a really, really solid fucking rock record. Like, it's up there. Maybe not top 5. Top 10, though, probably.
I haven't listened to much Ghost. Here and there.
They're great. They're great, man. They're amazing. They're great live. And they have been for a long fucking time.
How long?
Well, I mean not like fucking 20 years or something.
Okay.
But when did I see them live first? I think I saw them live first in 2015. Yeah, in 2015.
I feel like I've heard about them for like 8-10 years.
Their first record, I got hip to them on their second album, Cycle. And so that would have been in, I think, like 2013, somewhere around there. Okay. So, but yeah, they're great. And there was a real mystery to them then, and that has like sort of since dissipated partially because of the lawsuits from former band members and things like that. And so, but now everyone knows that Ghost is basically a solo project by Tobias Forge. And he writes everything, he does everything, he puts on the makeup, he's always the singer. Because they had this whole mythology of that they would have a new, like that the singer was a new guy every album cycle. They were like, and they'd have like an actor playing a guy that got kicked, and they'd make these cool promo videos and all this sort of shit and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, and the interviews were always done by one of the Nameless Ghouls, the band members, but it was always Tobias in a Nameless Ghoul costume doing all the interviews, you know. And so, but at the time, man, there was a real like, oh man, these guys really worship Satan. Oh. It was real fun.
I don't know. I could get into that whole thing, honestly. I can get behind that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like that, yeah.
It's all great. It's all fucking awesome.
I don't know. I wouldn't look at Ghost and think, man, those guys really worship Satan. I would. That's maybe one of the last things I would actually.
Definitely wouldn't now, okay? But I'm telling you,
there was a time.
You know, whenever I was first hearing those first few songs, when they were first crossing my path off of you know, like Monstrance Clock and things like that, like when I was hearing that then, you know, and seeing like their videos and their presentation, it was like, oh man, like these guys are on to something. And they, you know what I mean? I remember showing it to Zach Robinson because I was real excited about it. And he was like, man, I don't think it's good to invoke that kind of energy. said something to that effect, you know?
Right.
And so.
Was Ghost a band that came from Eurovision?
No, you're thinking of Lord.
Well, I'm thinking of a lot of bands, but I didn't know if they were one of them because they seemed like something that totally could have come out of that.
No, their first album was much more sort of doom laden, I guess, like much more like in the sort of the Candlemass sort of lane of doom, like Blue Oyster Cult kind of vibes and stuff.
Right.
And then it sort of got progressively more poppy, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds about right, I guess, from what I've heard.
But yeah, no, I mean they were signed to Metal Blade. They did it right in the sense that at first they were touring. They had like they started with the underground thing, you know, like they were signed to Metal Blade. They were touring in the metal scene, getting that underground, quote unquote, underground cred. And so, you know, which is a really underappreciated thing, because if you get that backbone, if you get that stability, then you can take more risks as you get to the top, I think, because you have a foundation to, you know what I mean? You have an anchor in a sense.
Yeah.
And so if you take off and you get more fans, you know, there's still that like hardcore fan base that's going to buy your new record. And so you have a little bit of leeway. And yeah, you're going to lose some because they're going to be like, oh, it's right. whatever. Fuck those people. My whole identity is based on not liking things that other people like. So once I find out that someone likes something that I like, I have to stop liking it because I am that shallow.
God, I guess there are people like that still. I haven't come across any in a long time.
I mean, well, how many people do you come across?
Not many. What I meant to say was, I haven't come across anybody in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just that it might just be different. It might just be a different energy, sort of, because I think about how I don't know if that is a common phenomenon now, as common of a phenomenon now as it was when we were coming up with music specifically.
Right.
Because
No, I knew people when we were in high school who very specifically had that exact outlook.
you're looking at one of them.
Really?
I mean, I fought it. I fought it.
You suppressed the urge.
I did,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I had it for sure.
Okay.
But I fought it. You know,
If you liked something that other people liked on a full moon, you would become some sort of beast.
well, okay, so I have probably seen Slipknot live more than any other single band. Okay, not any other single artist, because there's a lot of like Mike Dillon and Galactic and Stanton Moore. Those guys I know. I've seen those guys like fucking, because you can go to New Orleans in one weekend during Jazz Fest and see those dudes play like 12 times if you try.
Cool.
But I bought a ticket. Their name's on the fucking ticket. Slipknot more than anyone else.
Sure.
Machine Head close second. But I only own one Slipknot shirt, and it's the one I bought the first time I saw them, and I stopped wearing it whenever other people started wearing Slipknot shirts in high school. This is the difference. I didn't stop listening to Slipknot.
Right.
I just stopped. I was like, all right,
You no longer advertise.
y'all can have that. Slipknot doesn't need my help anymore. I don't need to be, I'm not one of you. Okay. Let me get this straight. I don't have spiked bracelets and all this sort of shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm, and so yeah, there was a part of it that was, it was like the same kind of thing, of,
Gotcha.
like, well, I was there whenever, I saw them play at small venues, and there's always that dude, there's always those people and shit like that. And it's,
Yeah.
meh. Like, I don't know.
Who cares?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, fucking grow the fuck up. Have a little. I mean, I do get. So there was a thing that happened like with Blue October, which was interesting, where they were sort of mostly a regional Texas band that had a really hardcore regional following.
Right.
And then they got signed to Universal, I think. And they had that single Hate You that came out. And all of a sudden, on that record, they were, number one single and all sorts of shit. And so the demographic of their fan base of people who were going to their concerts all of a sudden changed. And so the old school people, all of a sudden their concerts were a different thing.
Right.
And so they were like, why are all of y'all here? You have an Avril Lavigne shirt on. What is happening? And so it became this whole,
Yeah.
So I get that, but that's a very isolated. I feel like it's a very specific situation.
Yeah. I mean, that has at least some merit behind it, I feel like. Also.
Yeah. But I mean, and someone would have really torn about it. They're like, I'm really happy that they're making all this money, but I just don't really want to stand next to these fucking idiots at this fucking show. Just play Balance Beam. Fuck.
God. The buzz crowd.
Yeah, the buzz crowd. So, but
Oh, so two things.
Yeah.
No one knows what the fuck kayfabe means or where it came from. First of all, there's a
We're doing science here tonight.
yeah. After extensive research during the last conversation, one theory is that it took the words "be fake" and applied Pig Latin to them in a certain way.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that.
Okay.
Anyway, though, speaking of bands that eventually break kayfabe, Blue Oyster Cult, motherfucking Godzilla.
I've never listened to that song.
You've never heard that song?
I know that it exists.
Oh, it's so weird.
Never
It's
listened
so
to it.
not anything else that they have done.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre shit. It's exactly that.
I-
It's them going, you know what would be fucking funny? If we did a song about Godzilla and said, Godzilla, woo!
I've heard the Surge version of it that's at the end of I think King of the Monsters.
Surge. Tinkin?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Him and like Gene Hoglan and a few other fucking people
Oh,
threw
okay.
together a version of it and put it on the end of one of the new Godzilla movies.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's pretty dumb that I don't know that song because I'm a huge fucking Godzilla fan.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Blue Oyster Cult.
Nope. I really only know the one Blue Oyster Cult song. I really wish that I knew a different one that I could name that wasn't "Don't Fear the Reaper." Yeah, man. Iron Buttercups. Yeah, that blue. Isn't that it? Isn't that what it's called?
In the Garden of Eden,
Yeah.
as Bart Simpson played.
26 minutes later. Yeah, sorry for dropping the ball on that. I feel like I just fucked something up by not knowing that Blue Oyster Cult song.
No, I'm just surprised because that's been on. It was all over the radio, but I've heard it a billion places. I feel like
Maybe I have heard it and it just never clicked to me.
Maybe you
So
just
I was
didn't-
like, they can't possibly be saying Godzilla.
or you were like, this can't be Blue Oyster Cult,
Maybe so.
so you just didn't.
Maybe so.
know.
Those are all valid possibilities.
It is a weird
So,
song.
Yeah, for shiz. So, anything else you want to throw out there about Emperor Sand?
No, and it's a really fucking good album.
Nice.
They do everything that I love about what Mastodon does.
Nice. Do you feel like they've been relatively maybe not consistent in the kind of record that they've done, but consistent in the quality of records?
Absolutely, that was a point I was going to bring up. Is like even with the weird shifts here and there on some songs, they've been extremely consistent.
I don't know that if there's a band out there that I listen to less, that I am happier that so many other people listen to
Yeah,
as much as Mastodon.
totally.
Because for whatever reason, I just don't listen to them a lot.
Yeah,
But I am so fucking glad that those guys have the thing that they have.
yeah.
It's so weird that they have it because, I remember when they were playing Fat Cats down on Washington Avenue and shit like that in front of like 200 people
Sure, yeah,
and shit like that. Maybe not even 200 people.
yeah.
But
Because they're kind of at the stage where they're like almost elder statesmen of metal in a weird sort of way.
well, they're yeah, and
They've gotten to this weird like status. They can kind of do whatever the fuck they want.
yeah, and they at some point somehow transcended, and into like that next level of like a cultural phenomenon, so to
Yeah.
speak, to where, but they just got in the door to where they don't have to take any of the shit. They don't get any of the criticism, but they can go and play fucking anywhere they want in the world that has electricity. And enough people will show up so that they don't lose money.
Yeah,
And that's fuck.
it's wild. Yeah,
I feel like that's because there's never going to be another Metallica, that's but I feel like what Mastodon has achieved is about as close to that as a band that started in the 90s could hope to achieve. You have what Slipknot has, but I feel like Slipknot is a little more they're a little more, they're not as free as Mastodon. Mastodon is a little more free to do whatever the fuck they want. I don't know that Slipknot is.
yeah, that's probably right. I feel like Slipknot's fans expect
Yeah.
Slipknot.
Yeah,
at
and
all
I mean,
times.
and don't get me wrong, like I I love all. Well, I don't love all of Slipknot's records, but that's a separate issue.
Sure, it's a separate show.
You know, but I like their newer records. I just don't like All Hope Is Gone. That record's a fucking mess.
No hope for that one.
But
I mean, so like Mastodon did stuff like when the Aqua Teen Hunger Force movie came out, they did the theme song to that. They did like the soundtrack to that as animated characters and shit.
They did like the soundtrack to like Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
Like other like
true.
You know, and like like Slipknot doesn't have that kind of thing going on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess to a certain extent they just for better or worse, they just resonate with like nerd culture in a weird way that other bands don't.
Well, I think that they rode the weird horse, man. Like
exactly, yeah.
Like what brought them to the dance was a fucking weirdo, and they kept dancing with the fucking weirdo.
Yeah.
And it somehow allowed them to like, oh well, cool, man. You guys get to play where the fuck you want now.
Yeah.
And so good on them.
Is it trajectory less traveled?
Yeah. So rad for them.
Yeah, but anyway, go listen to that album. Check it out. It's really good.
Will do. I mean, it's always, you know, my relationship to Mastodon is real silly because I just
because at some point I was that asshole earlier on pushing the band on you.
You were never an asshole about it though.
No, I know. I know I wasn't an asshole.
But some people we knew were, and I was like, oh, you're into that band those assholes are into, is what I was like, how I would respond to you.
Asshole by association.
So the thing is that what was different about them early on, like this is with like Leviathan and shit like that. What was different about them that resonated with everyone, I didn't really get. That's not what I was interested in from a heavy aspect. I was like, you motherfuckers are playing slow because you can't play fast. is where I was coming from in 2003, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I was also a major Sabbath head, and I was already into jazz fusion and shit like that. So the things that got people really excited about Braun on drumming didn't.
Like people have already done that over here.
It did, yeah. Like it didn't do for me what it did for other people who, you know, weren't really into Black Sabbath and Billy Cobham, you know. So
yeah, right.
And I was kind of an asshole, so I wasn't really open to it. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
We can just say that's the simplest answer. I didn't get it.
Yeah, that's fine. There have been bands like that for me too. So.
Yeah. So.
Anywho, so you have been listening to.
Oh, so I mean, I guess this kind of fits in line with the Ed thing, honestly, is I've been on this trip of listening to people who are borderline narcissistic and possibly diagnosed with mental illnesses.
Is Ed gonna run for president at some point?
Yeah, so I've listened to a lot of Kanye and Devin Townsend. And so both of which diagnosed as bipolar, only one of which ran for president or was talking about running for president, though. Mm-hmm. And so the thing is that I think is interesting about it is that, like, it was around like 2016 or so where I said, you know what? I am just so fucking thoroughly ignorant of hip hop in general. I'm just going to immerse myself in this for like 3 months or something. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, let me just fucking look up, like, what are the 20 best hip hop records or 50 best hip hop records? And
right.
I went through all of them, and that was all I fucking listened to for like 3 or 4 months or so. And so Kanye's first few records are in there, like just unanimously. They're always in there.
Yeah, they still are, I think.
And so, yeah, that was when I sort of first got hip to them. And then my wife and I got married in fall of 2016. And then we went on Jam Cruise in like January of 2017.
Yeah.
And one of the bands that I really, one of the reasons I wanted to go was for this band called Lettuce. And the drummer in that band, Adam Deitch, was doing sort of a master class where he's talking about electronic music and stuff like that. And at one point, like Kanye came up and there was there was only like 15, 20 people in the room, but there was a little like murmur, you know, the mention. And he was like, look, guys, whatever you want to say about whatever he does in public, just know that when it comes to producing, when it comes to this, he's one of the best in the world. And you just need to know that. And more than anything, I was really moved by Adam's hard stop on the momentum of the room. Mm-hmm. That really, really moved me because people were ready to just be like, oh, fuck that guy. And he could have just like went, and moved on. But he said, no. Y'all are wrong.
Right.
And so that, I think, kind of permanently opened my mind because I'm so inspired and influenced by Adam Deitch. And so every few years I would go back and like, well, let me listen to like the next Kanye, you know, or start over. And so, you know, this past time, I don't know why, I just decided to. And so I was listening to like the first 4. So I got up to like 808s and Heartbreaks. Mm. Fuck that. Then I stayed on that one. I was like, I don't need anything else but this one. I want to stick on this one. And so, but man, those first 3 records are amazing. They're so fucking good. What I really like about them is that, and again, like, whatever, fuck it. Never mind. I don't need to preface this. When you listen to those records, it really has this feel, to me, the feeling that it has is, man, it feels so vulnerable and it feels so sincere and it feels, it's like you're hanging out. It's like that moment, like you're hanging out at like a small gathering. There's just like 5 people in a room. You're hanging out, some couches, you're drinking a little, maybe you're smoking some, whatever. You're just hanging out, you're having a good time, and someone gets on a fucking roll and they're standing up and they're just letting it all hang out. But they've caught the wave. And everything they're saying is making sense and it's all fucking connecting and you're just like, yeah, man, that fucking is how it is.
Right.
And that's how his albums feel. Like all 70 minutes of it feels like that. Like you know, and that, maybe that's part of his genius in that, is that he is able to catch that fucking wave, I guess, or you know, that kind of feeling. And so, but yeah, man, I love that. I love it. It's all fucking good. And what's interesting is how all of his public shenanigans, because I didn't grow up inside of hip hop culture in any sense, or even really pop music culture. Right. That was always shit that was going on over there.
Right.
So I had never, the only time I've heard Kanye's music knowingly was when I chose to. And everything that I've seen or heard about him do in the public eye seems so separate from his music. So I'm able to enjoy his music, you know, in a vacuum. Whereas I cannot enjoy Dave Mustaine's music in a vacuum because I am part of that culture. And so I am part of that context. And I know that there are plenty of great metal acts that don't have to get on stage and talk about masks being tyranny. So whenever Dave Mustaine does it, I'm like, fuck you. Or same with Ted Nugent or whoever. Or you know, or years ago, whenever Dave Mustaine got Rotting Christ kicked off of a festival bill in Europe because he's all into Jesus now or whatever. And a fucking like legendary Greek black metal band fucking, you know, gets, you know, like, oh, we're just going to take money and exposure from those guys because I don't like the name of their band and I'm Dave Mustaine. Fuck you. Anyway, I don't have that context. So whatever foolishness Kanye does, it doesn't, you know, and maybe it should, maybe, I don't know, but,
yeah. that's what I was gonna say. Is like the stuff that I do know about him is just like stuff that I've like through osmosis from the news, basically, or just because I'm also not in the pop culture sphere or like
Right.
Pay attention to celebrities or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, everything that I know about what he does as far as his views on shit, it all comes from like news coverage and shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, and I don't, I mean, the first time that I ever knew who he was when there was that Katrina fundraiser.
Oh yeah, he was up there with Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. And,
Yeah.
and Mike Myers was like, can you please send your money, blah, 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 blah. And then Kanye's like,
George Bush hates black people.
like he takes a breath and he looks right in the camera and goes, George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Doesn't care.
And Mike Myers like, I just didn't know, just flabbergasted. And at the time, I was like, what a silly man. What a silly, silly, stupid man. And now I'm like, well, I mean, he's probably right.
Yeah, I don't. So that was 2005.
Right.
I don't really remember that I had a good place to go check to see what people's reactions were at the time.
Well, what I remember, the thing is that, when you talk about racism, like right now, I feel like pretty much everyone is on board that is going to be on board with understanding that,
Yeah.
systemic racism is a thing. And
You like to hope so, anyway. Yeah. It seems that the tides have turned that way for now.
right, like the people who don't get it, like maybe just aren't going to get it, and that that's fine or whatever. But that was not the case in 2005. Like we grew up in our public school education in regards to racism and whatnot was basically like, yeah, people fucked up their slavery, but then they fixed it and made it better. And then in the 60s, things weren't quite right, but some people marched and, but it's all better now. It's fine. Like that was sort of how things were taught to us.
Yeah.
And
basically like racism is kind of over with.
Yes, absolutely.
At that point. Yeah.
That's definitely how it was taught. And we were also sort of taught that what racism was like lynching someone or killing someone or beating someone just because they were black. And that is all that racism could be.
So right around the same time was when James Byrd got dragged to death in Jasper.
I think that happened earlier.
Was it earlier?
I think that happened while we were still in high school.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right around high school.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so something like that, even in, deep East Texas, like my grandparents lived in Jasper, so I was up there all the time.
Right. And we were like, that's racist because that's violence.
And and everyone was able to sort of say, hey, look, that's what that is racist.
Right. That's racism. And it's like, no. Like denying people home loans is also racism.
Yeah.
Because, you're making it hard. Like you're just doing these things at a slower rate. You're not going to go out and beat them and kill them, but you're going to like make it harder for them to feed their families.
Yeah. And the systemic part of it, which, it's still hard to convince people of.
Well, I mean, and it's hard to understand. It's hard to wrap your head around because you have to occupy there's two thoughts that seemingly contradict each other that you have to occupy at the same time, which is you can have racist ideas that are not as bad as you think racism is. And also racism is worse than you ever could have imagined when those things are put into effect. And those ideas are really, because you want to say, oh, well, racism is only putting violence on somebody because they are black or because they are a different ethnicity. And you have to say, no. Racism is also not getting, getting less, being less likely to get a call back for a job interview if your name sounds black.
Right.
So on and so on and so forth, and all those types of things. So, or if you meet a black person and you assume they grew up without their dad, or all the, whatever, all these types of things that are not that are not, that are less violent than killing someone, you have to acknowledge that that's also racism.
Mm-hmm.
And so it seems like you're saying, like, see, like, look, like you're just doing a little racism. So racism isn't a bad thing, or racism isn't as bad as you were taught to think it was. Because if racism is only murdering someone, then you're taught to believe that is the worst fucking thing that you can fucking do. And we're like, no. Like, racism can also be this thing, which seems minor when an individual does it. But then you also have to say, well, what if an entire society does this? Okay, well, now it's not fucking minor. If like,
Well, it's not minor on a personal level. If even if a person does it to a person, it's still very major to them.
So what I'm saying is, like, it's not compared to murdering someone, which is what we were taught racism was. Not calling somebody back for a job interview because they have a black, quote unquote, sounding name is less violent than that. So it's like, see, like race, like, so it's sort of expanding what the word racism means. But then the thing is that if you say, like, okay, well, that's not just an individual doing that. That's not just one bad person who's not calling back black people for job interviews. Like, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a system. And so that is, it could probably be argued that is worse than a single bad, violent, racist individual. So, or it's at least, like it's just as big of a problem, like and so.
Yeah, it still all falls under the banner of racism, just on different axes, basically.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess, like there's sort of, I'm trying to sort of reference what we were taught racism was, which is this very narrow thing. And that's why you get people, you see people, and I mean, and I've done it too, like getting all up in arms and getting all triggered and all flustered if someone even comes close to accusing you of doing something racist, because you're like, I haven't killed nary a black person. I can't be in that, because we've sort of been trained to almost shut that conversation the fuck down, and with extreme prejudice, in a sense.
Yeah, I guess I don't really remember a lot of what I was taught explicitly. Like, I remember gleaning from family members and what family members who I was very close to and loved a lot would say about, like, lazy so-and-so black person. I'm like, why would you say that? I'm like 10 years old. Like, what made you want to say that? Like, I didn't know what racism was.
Right.
But I heard that from people that I loved and respected. I'm like, well, that's not right. So
yeah.
So I guess there was a weird double front going on there, like the people that you learn from naturally,
right,
your family and friends and whatever, and what you're actually taught in school,
right. And then I think also for people who are more, such as myself, who are more liberally, more left leaning inclined, which I've always been that way, ever since high school, is that because the bar is so low, it's very easy to think that you're not racist just because you don't tell jokes that have the N word in it.
Right. That's definitely true.
And so it's like, nah, man, I am doomed to good work here.
I am an ally.
Yeah, I don't say nary an N-word joke.
I didn't push that black person off the sidewalk when I walked past them earlier.
Yeah,
I am a pinnacle of justice.
Right, and you're not. So, but anyway, sort of all that to say, because I remember it was a few years later that I went down to New Orleans just because I wanted to go see Jazz Fest and all sorts of stuff. I had sort of fallen in love with that scene.
Yeah.
Or like New Orleans music specifically and whatnot. And so I went down there, and I think 2000, spring of 2010, I think. And I ended up talking to someone who was, because I ended up parking at like a elementary school, and a woman was there, you know, like raising money for the PTA, like letting people park there close to the Jazz Fest grounds or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'd gotten there fucking early for whatever reason. And so when I was just like hanging out, just talking, and I was like, well, what has it been like, you know, with the Katrina rebuild and all that sort of stuff. And then I remember like, you know, getting on that subject about, you know, the president's response and all this sort of stuff. And what she told me, I remember what she told me, and then I remember my reaction to it. What she told me was that, you know, like someone knew someone, like somehow they had like an inside line on some information of like what President Bush actually said in the moments. And she was like, he said, let those N-words die. And so this woman believed that George Bush had said that phrase.
Right.
And I remember hearing that. I'm like, well, that's absolutely ridiculous, is what I remember thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I go, and I mean, but I didn't say that at the time because I didn't want to be rude. But as I thought about it, the way that it stuck with me was that how fucking crazy is it that it feels possible to her that the president of the United States said, let all the people who look like me die. Mm-hmm. And she's like, that seems right. Like someone said that, and she was like, that seems right.
Right.
And then that didn't like wake me up all the way, but that like opened the door to like, huh.
Like to really think about that from her perspective.
Right. Like, oh, we're living, you know, like to open my mind to that idea of, okay, well, we're living in two different Americas, you know?
Right.
And so, I mean, it was another like 10 years or something before I would fucking get there, but it was definitely a piece of that.
Sure.
So, but yeah, man, Kanye makes great music.
I forgot about that whole Katrina thing until you said that, but as soon as you did, I was like, holy shit. But that's the sort of thing, like I was saying earlier, that was 2005, like that there was no way to like gauge a wide reaction on that sort of thing. Right.
And you know, and like, okay, well, Taylor Swift won a video award, and he said Beyonce should have won it, and then he, you know, and they had some shit going back and forth, and then like, I don't give a shit about Taylor Swift, so I don't care I don't care about any of that. I don't care that I don't care about a Kardashian. I don't care about anything. Like, it's all,
yeah.
And so yeah, I'm able to enjoy his music completely in a vacuum. And maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. But for whatever reason. So.
Right.
So yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Have you listened to his new album?
I haven't yet. That's what him and Devin Townsend have in common. I have not. Even though his new record is like 2 years old, I still haven't listened to the whole.
It?
Yeah, Empath.
No. Oh, Devin's.
Yeah, Devin's.
Okay.
I haven't listened to
what?
it start to finish yet.
Okay, gotcha.
But another thing that I was going to mention about Kanye, which is going to come up with the Ed stuff when we get into it, is that I have a lot of sympathy for. Like, whatever public shenanigans he gets into, I'm going to have sympathy for him because he's legit fucking bipolar. Mm-hmm. And if you're legit fucking bipolar and there is an industry of people around you that are going to make money off of your confidence.
That's a good point.
There's going to be some bad decisions made unless that's fuck.
Yeah, if you've got people who, when you're in a given state, can push you further.
Yeah, or just not stop you, or
Yeah,
or that you don't trust to stop you. You know, and I mean, there would just there's like 10 things that would have to be exactly right for you to never make an ass of yourself, and to never get in over your head, and to never do something quote unquote crazy. And
Sure.
you know, and then on the other side, there's only one thing that has to go wrong for you to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I guess it's a question. Well, I don't know. If you're talking about Kanye, it's a question of like, what's the crazy shit he did? What's the goofy shit he did? What's the like boneheaded shit he did? And then what's the dangerous shit he did?
sure.
And there's way less of that, I think, but there was still like, dude, what are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly, I don't really know enough about any of that to really sort of like to unpack it. And
yeah.
so, but I'm gonna always have a little bit of sympathy because of, or a little bit of, I'm not gonna jump to criticize that man because, you know, for those reasons.
There's another dimension to it there.
Yeah. And so,
For sure.
but yeah, so that's as good a segue as any.
Yeah. Speaking of which.
All right. So, all right. So we're going to deal with this live bullshit. Okay.
Your most recent report.
Yeah, my most recent fucking report. So we had gotten up to, in the last one, we had gotten up to Secret Samadhi, and it got cut off there, which is probably a really good cutoff because that's sort of that was your initial sort of checkout.
It's kind of where I ended with my relationship with the live. Yeah.
Right. You didn't have much of a reference point for them going forward. And so, whereas I was like diehard, like I bought everything that came out still, like an abused spouse. And so what I'm going to do is I want to sort of do a brief kind of overview of the rest of their career after Secret Samadhi, kind of focusing more on the music side of things and just the overall quality of the music. And then I'm going to circle back and we're going to deal with 5.
We're going to deal with Ed.
Yeah, and we're going to deal with Ed and Ed's lyrics specifically and all that. So
this interview. Anyway, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So we're going to circle back around to get to that. So,
can't wait.
So we left off, we were talking about Distance to Here, and I told like a story about that record. It was just, there was a lot of things happening, and that record sort of was a very synchronous when it came out for me, because I had my mom was in college at the time, and she went on a field trip to a Buddhist temple. And for whatever reason, she was like, "Do you want to come to this?" I was like, "Sure." And so spent like a whole afternoon there, hung out,
Cool,
and talked to monks and interacted with all these people, did a meditation thing, all this sort of stuff. And it really, it left a really, really profound impact on me. It truly, truly did. And so I got really in, that really opened my mind. I had already been very sort of Christian skeptical, for my own reasons and whatnot. And I had been since I was really young anyway. And I had known about other religions, but just sort of having something like tangible, it really sort of solidified that, and it made getting into those things so much easier. It made reading about them after that experience so much easier because I had a reference point.
For sure.
And then around that same time, this album came out, and it uses a lot of Buddhist language and Buddhist imagery in the album cover and all that.
That was something from the interview that Ed brought up that I hadn't really thought about. Was the cover going from Secret Samadhi to this album was just like, here's a black cover, extremely dour and like plain font, going to this, which is like full of life and positivity.
Right, and a mandala kind of thing and all that sort of stuff. And so this album is one of my favorite fucking albums of all time. I was really afraid when I did this, when I went back and listened to it, that it was going to be just so cringy and awful, and I just wasn't going to enjoy it. No, man, I love this record through and through. I love every note. I love every lyric. I love every song, all of it. I still love it through and through. It holds up. The production on it is great. The arrangements are great. The songwriting is great. It's fucking weird. There's all these weird layers. There's a great use of especially keyboards. There's an incredible use of keyboards on this record, which cannot be said about. Like, this is the last record that they do that feels really, really well executed and thought out musically. Everything else they do after this feels kind of rushed.
I mean, they didn't really do much with keyboards before this either, did they?
No, none. But on this one, there's like harpsichord solos. There's all this like organ stuff that's happening, and it's all really fucking tasteful. And fuck.
Don't know if that came through or not.
I'm sure it didn't, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, Windows.
Yeah, thanks, Windows. And like
tasty organs.
Yeah. So, but there's it felt like all of these songs that they had that organic vibe to them, you know, where there's like they're jamming in the room, but then also there was a lot of thought put into, well, how do we connect this and make something unique? And so like the song Distance is a good example of that, because you have a hook in the intro that like, let him come into the city, let him find his lucky penny, let him shake it all around, all that sort of stuff or whatever. But then that doesn't show up again till the outro. And so after this album, if they ever had a fucking hook, that was going to be the chorus. And like, you weren't going to get you weren't going to get two really good hooks in the same song, you know? You weren't going to get like that kind of density. And this is a really dense record, and I mean that in the best possible way. And
it's a lot to chew on.
Yeah. And lyrically, it somehow manages to get like the maximum like sensual love, unity, BS, and minimal cringe. Not zero cringe, but minimal.
The cringe factor of 5 there.
Yeah, minimal. So some of my favorite moments on this record are how laid back and behind the beat Dolphin's Cry is, and that's just such a slow, weird tempo to have been a rock radio single. It's fucking weird.
Yeah.
I've talked a lot about how much Chad Gracie is just a fucking kick-ass drummer. So at the end of the song Sparkle, he's just like, fuck you, like just goes pure fucking quarter note, you know what I mean? And so I love the lyrics in Those Who Stood Up for Love, you know, that line, we made it to the moon, but we can't make it home. Like that's, to me, that's like, there you go. That's the pinnacle of the pop spirituality live lyric, you know? We made it to the moon, but we can't make it home. So, because you're juxtaposing like technology and civilization and advancement and blah, 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 but we've like lost our path, blah, 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 you know? And so yeah, like so the thing is about this record is that the drums are aggressive, the guitar is aggressive. And I think that that's one of the key things about live is that you need this weird balance of like, okay, well, you need some weird lyrics. Okay. Maybe spiritual, maybe not.
Right.
But something out there whatever, cool melody thrown in.
Yeah.
A song that's weird, like a song like, I don't know what this is about, or this is about something weird. And
that checks out.
Or this is about something I know, but it's in a really vague, it's in a weird way. Like no one's ever, like I Alone Love You isn't a real love song in the way, you know what I mean?
No, it's very much not that at all. It's kind of narcissistic. And
it absolutely is. Kind of, come to find out. and that's sort of like the balance of it. And so on other records or on 5, that aggression is no longer in the music, and it's replaced with like aggression and bravado in the vocals. Mm-hmm. And it does. That's not the formula, Jack. That's not the live vibe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Distance to Here, I fucking love it. Nice. I put some tracks on there and made you listen to it. Anything stick out to you? Other than like, this ain't for me. Why did Richard do this? This is as good as it gets. Oh God.
Well, here we go. We've reached the top of the hill. The roller coaster is about to plummet down. No, I mean it's well made. It's well made, and it is not it's not for me.
Right.
Kind of thing,
But it does come across as well made to you.
Totally, yeah. I recognize that it is like well done for what they do. Yeah.
That there's like intention. That there's like, you put a lot of time into this.
Right.
You
thought about some of this arrangement.
Right. And so an interesting thing is that the only live records that I like, that I think are good records. I'll say that in a second. I'll come back to that. All right. And then I'm going to briefly talk about 5. Okay. This album is extremely confusing. It was confusing when it came out. And we're going to come back.
I think we spent quite a bit of time on this last time, mostly laughing at it.
Just in the forest of confusion, trying to cut our way out.
Literally, Genesis's land of confusion is where we were for that one.
And so I'll just sort of broadly say, with this one, the songs to me broadly fall into 3 categories on this record.
Right.
There's standalone decent songs, of which I think there are like 3, maybe just 2. There's the songs where Ed raps. And then there's songs that are like B-sides for Distance to Here. That's like, this would have been a throwaway from Distance to Here, but in the context of all this rap rock stuff, this ain't so bad.
Right. Like I can see why you guys cut it from the last album. I can see how it got here.
Yeah, and I see why you put it on this one.
Right. Because it needed something to hold it up. It needed some scaffolding.
Right. And so what I will say about this, because I listened to some of it today, and I don't hate the elements of it sonically. The hooks are really good. The melodies are good. But that's never been Ed's problem. Like, Ed's always got that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's a good singer.
He is. And he's really good at writing hooks and melodies.
Yeah.
It's his lyrics and what those imply about who he is as a person that gives you a little pause. And but this record's a fucking mess, and we're gonna fucking talk about it, and we're gonna go back to it, because once we start, it's gonna be hard.
So it's called 5. He came up with that.
Oh. Did he? Man, a gift to mankind, that Ed.
That's what he said. That's what he told me. He was very proud. It's their 5th album.
Ta-da! Something that should be noted about that album is that I think the guitarist Chad Taylor said years later in like a blog or something like that, like this is on the official record. I forgot exactly who said it, is that, oh, well, that was just supposed to be demos, but the record company got a hold of it and wanted to release it, which I don't know how true that is or how much that's a cop out. It's hard to know, because maybe that's how the band felt, and you never really know how that shit really goes down. Like maybe that's how the band felt, and they were like, yeah, no, we weren't happy with those performances or those songs at all, but Ed was really fucking stoked and used all that and used the record company money, and the record company was excited because like, Ed wants to rap.
Ed's excited.
Yeah, Ed's excited.
We're excited.
Yeah, so yeah, we can make money off of a rap rock thing,
Right, yeah, exactly.
Limp Bizkit's doing well and whatnot.
Because this was 2001.
Yeah, right before September 11th.
Yeah.
And so, which this means that Live was on the bill at Woodstock 99. They saw the shit that went down with Limp Bizkit, and they said, we want some of that.
I'll have what Durst is having.
Yeah, that's what this fucking means. All right. And so then anyway, a few years later, hold on. Get this shit.
Props.
God damn it. Too many.
Too many is the correct answer for live albums. This one specifically.
Yeah, and so then like 2 years later, they did this cat, Birds of Prey, and this is just a straight ahead kind of a phoned in record. It's not bad, but it's very just guitars, drums, vocals, and bass. There's not a lot of thought put into it. Or I don't want to say there's not a lot of thought put into it, but it doesn't come close to Distance to Here as far as, like, it's the kind of record that you say in the press, like, yeah, we just went back to basics. But what you mean is, well, we don't really live in the same state anymore. And so, and we don't
practice either.
And we don't really like each other. So we just wrote this in the studio. And because, we're on a smaller label now, we didn't have 3 months in the studio like we did with Distance to Here. We had like 3 weeks. And so we just kind of hoofed through this shit. We didn't have time to put all those sweet organ parts on this.
Right. We had to get this out the door.
Yeah. And so, I mean, but again, there's still great performances from the band. The band is still there, kind of. They're there. They're more here than they were on 5, but they're still here, more or less. Less so than on Distance to Here, but they're still there. There's still great drumming. There's still good melodies. I like some of the songs. I genuinely like some of the songs.
Mm-hmm. And just to repeat something that I said in the last time we talked was like, I never had a single bad thing to say about the band themselves.
Right.
Like always solid performances, like just good solid rock band.
Yeah, they're great. And they have like their unique personalities, but they, and they, whenever they're doing their thing really well, which to me, like Distance to Here is like the pinnacle of it, or Throwing Copper, you have those personalities shining through where there's a bass hook, there's a guitar hook, there's a hook from the drums, and all of these are still also supporting the song very well. And that's the magic of it, right? Which that sort of happens less and less as the albums progress. And so, but yeah, I don't hate this record. When it came out, I think I was mostly just relieved that Ed wasn't rapping anymore.
Fair.
But it was still a little like, it's a little straight ahead. This is a little,
Yeah.
These songs aren't weird. Like there's no weird lyrics here, really.
And therefore not particularly interesting.
Yeah. Like there's one where he goes full boomer. Yeah. Let me find it here. We can go ahead and spend a few minutes on this because there's not that much to say. So it's the song Life Marches On. Okay. So In the country, the farms and orchards swell with orchards and peaches and a little bit of truth as well. In the city, so this is a thing that comes up with him thematically, lyrically, like, you know, in place A, they do shit right. In place B, they do shit wrong. There's a song on 5 we'll talk about later where it's like in the East and in the West. Here,
so this is what you might call a comparison.
A comparison, yeah.
Ed got very good at these.
And so here, you know, now he's not comparing East and West. He's comparing urban and rural.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the city, politicians beat their drum. All the suits come running. It's all degradation.
They do that. They do be doing that.
And so...
And in the country, we get none of that.
Yeah, so in the country, you have truth.
Uh-huh.
And orchards and orange and peaches. And in the city, you have politicians and degradation.
Fruit and truth. And then politics and rot.
In the country, everybody thinks we're dumb, but we built the fire. Why'd you come and get some?
I think that's not true at all. I think in the country, they think they're very smart. I think the city is where they think the country people are typically dumb.
That's what he's saying.
Usually how it goes.
Are you being facetious?
No.
Okay.
Because he said in the country, people think we're dumb. Or smart. What do you say?
No. He says in the country, everybody thinks we're dumb.
Right.
Like.
So who's we in this case then?
The people in the country. He's saying he's in the country.
In the country, everybody thinks we're dumb. Okay, because it makes it sound like he's saying in the country, that's where they think we're dumb.
That's not what he's saying.
Okay. Ed is beyond me. Ed is beyond me. I'm no match.
I know Ed speak. That is what those words mean.
Gotcha.
What you're saying is that, like, yeah, out here in the country, everybody in the country thinks that we in the country are dumb.
Okay.
But that's not what he means. Okay. He's saying here in the country, everybody not in the country thinks that we in the country are dumb.
Ed.
That's what he's
sly
saying.
Dog.
But we built the fire. Why'd you come and get some? Like, whatever. And so what else is interesting too about this whole city-rural juxtaposition is that this is a theme throughout some of their other songs. It comes up in Shit Town and Throwing Copper, which is just this very kind of like an endearing ode almost. Because it's not really judgmental. It's not terribly judgmental. You know, it's just like, yeah, I live in a shit town. The Weavers live down the street from me. You know, something. It's just, it feels very observational.
Mm-hmm. And they're from like small town Pennsylvania.
Yeah. But then on the next record, on Secret Samadhi, you know, there's
Gashead?
No, it's
Rattlesnake?
Rattlesnake.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Where I think it's like this meta commentary about how stupid people in the country are.
Right.
And so this is like a thing that he seems to flip flop between. I'll read just a few more.
Well, maybe Rattlesnake then is its very high concept, takedown of that point of view.
Right. Yeah. Like it's
right, Ed. Right.
It's classist inception. So in the country, the stars shine brighter than in the city. That's the big hook of the bridge in this song, you know. Which is like, I see what you're doing though. And then yeah, because there's less light pollution. But you're not talking about those kind of stars, are you, Ed?
Could be both.
And here's it. This is it. This is where he goes full boomer. In the city, I turn on the radio. Only leaves me with the question, what happened to our generation? This is 2003. Like this motherfucker's like in his 30s.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's yeah.
At this point, like what happened to our generation? You know, and so yeah, like full boomer. It's weird. And there's another track on here that I'm going to talk about because I'm not going to come back to it, called Sanctity of Dreams, which is a nice hook. It's a nice vibe and stuff like that, but the lyrics are just garbage. So paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. Now, if you know Ed Kowalcyk, like have a mental picture of him. Take a picture of and imagine what he would be doing. Okay? Paint a mustache on the Mona Lisa. Ride a Harley through the heart of danger. Pick up a pen and fight a war for the right to dream. I was 17. So, you think Ed's riding a Harley through the heart of danger like Brendan Fraser in The Mummy or some shit?
Ed is no Brendan Fraser. Let me tell you something right now.
Who the fuck is?
Brendan fucking Fraser is.
Give up my house, sleep for nights on concrete. Meditate with all the bums on Vine Street. No more running, no more hiding in the house of the dead. I think I'll grow some dreads. And and then the big hook of the chorus is, or the last line is, society will never dream like me. I believe that society will never dream like me, blah, blah, blah. Society will never dream like me. And so I'm just using that as like an exhibit into how highly Ed seems to think of himself.
Yeah. I don't get the feeling that Ed has ever, small town Pennsylvania is one thing. I don't get the feeling that Ed has ever set foot in the country, nor in the city where the bums be meditating.
Yeah. And but this is the thing, and I'll get more into this, is that I didn't, like, now I hear that, I'm like, that's fucking dumb. But I didn't think that in 2003 because I was pretentious enough to think that I also would ride a Harley through the heart of danger and that I also would meditate with bums. I had something to teach them. Like, oh, let's meditate. I've meditated 3 times before. I went to a temple once. I know the way. You don't understand. I'm a white man. I only need to be shown things once.
Well, okay, so at least you didn't write this song. So there's that. You didn't go that extra mile. Ed had to.
Yeah, it was compulsive. Compelled beyond his will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's Birds of Prey. Songs from Black Mountain is one of the worst albums I've ever heard.
Moving on.
That album is 5 is at least interesting.
Everything that you put on that list from Black Mountain to listen to was painfully boring, and or outright just like god awful lyrically.
It's bad. It's lazy. Every song is in a boring ass mid tempo. None of them have a fucking there's not a bridge on that fucking record. There's not a single bridge. They just stop playing the fucking second chorus for fucking 4 bars and then go back into it. That's all they fucking do. It's all gross. The lyrics are terrible. Sophia, I need you like a junkie needs a vein. Fuck you. And I had to like, yeah. And then it's, think of Jesus, think of the Buddha, love, 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 blah, blah. We can all be free. And it's like, it's all word salad, citizen of the world bullshit. And, and like, oh, my daughters, oh, they made me see the love and bring out the best. It's like, dude, stop. Like, don't.
Leave the innocent out of this.
Don't blame your daughters for writing such a shitty song. Like, don't use them as an excuse for this fucking crap. And there's like a generic, like, Bring the Soldiers Home song, which is kind of weird because on the previous record there was a like "What Are We Fighting For" song.
So there was one of those on Black Mountain. You're saying?
Yeah, there's like "When Are They Coming Home?"
Okay, so and then there was one on Birds of Prey as well.
No. On Birds of Prey there was a "What Are We Fighting For?"
Okay, and then on this one there was the one that they put out for free for 9/11.
Yeah, Overcome.
There's
not really.
That's not so much thematic.
No.
Okay.
But on Distance to Here, there is a Those Who Stood Up for Love, like where it's like, who put the flower in the barrel of that gun? Who would house all the refugees in a single shack or a lonely bungalow? So it's weird to sort of like. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Like you don't normally have there's nothing wrong. Like, I do not have a problem with the Bring Troops Home sentiment and like because they're fucking they are people and they have families and they don't, you know, their lives should not be risked for what they're being risked for.
Yeah.
And so I this is not about me wanting to shit on veterans and say they're all hired killers or some shit like that or whatever. But it is atypical for a band that typically has an anti-war kind of slant in branding to also have a bring the troops home kind of song, I guess. Or when they, because it's not like get off your ass and bring them home. It's like, when are they coming? You know, it's a different thing. It's like a Three Doors Down song.
I was just going to invoke the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know, like it's a conservative rock song, you know, I mean, that's what it is. But yeah, like, it's, you know, it is the worst record that I know all the lyrics to. And to me too, because at the time, this was around the time that I started to play in churches a lot. And so, and I was like, this is almost a praise and worship record. Like, this is weird. Or it almost, because I had listened to like some David Crowder records and like it played almost like, because the way that those guys were putting out records, they would have like 2 or 3 songs on there that are like, all right, well, this is going to be the songs that I hope make it into church services and that I get all the publishing rights for and all that sort of stuff. But then the rest of the music would be like, the rest of the songs would be like their art, not their art songs, but it's like, yeah, I don't expect this to get played in church, but this is Christian-ish or whatever. And this, you know, this Songs from Black Mountain had that kind of vibe to it. And so, I mean, look at the cover of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
That's real Jesus Christ pose. That's real close. And look at this. So...
Come to the water.
But yeah, so anyway, this was like in 2006. The band basically disassembled after this. And, you know, the band went on and did this band called The Gracious Few, which is with Kevin Martin from Candlebox, which is sort of like a, you know, it's worth listening to. It's like a Southern rock kind of thing. It's nice. It's not terrible. There's almost like a Led Zeppelin-ish feel to it at times. But yeah, so I'll read from the Gracious Few Wikipedia article. On November 30th, 2009, Taylor Dahlheimer, that's the bassist, and Gracie issued a statement announcing that Live had disbanded following the departure of lead singer Ed Kowalcyk and that the Gracious Few was now their main focus. Their statement alleged that Kowalcyk had demanded a $100,000 lead singer bonus to appear with the band at the 2009 Pink Pop Festival and had obtained sole publishing rights to the band's songs without the knowledge of the other 3 band members.
Man.
So I don't know. The whole like lead singer bonus or whatever, that sounds and looks terrible, but getting the band's publishing rights without their knowledge.
Dude, yeah.
That's like, I'm taking money away from your kids and grandkids level shit.
Yeah.
And so that's...
all this that we've worked hard for 20 years, this is mine now.
Right. Because I wrote the lyrics. I'm the guy.
Right.
And so, you know, there's no way for any of us to really know all the details of that. But if any of that's true, that's real fucked up.
Yeah. No doubt.
And so... so anyway... And then Ed put out a solo record called Grace, which I listened to. It's better than Songs from Black Mountain. It's more cohesive than that. I almost kind of wonder if he was like trying to save his good songs for his solo career.
Right, because you have to imagine at this point they're like completely button heads. Like probably nothing's going to go right.
Right. Or just like they're I don't know. And yeah, and I don't like there's this weird thing because he goes full Born Again, okay? And that I think happened on Songs from Black Mountain. And And so his record Grace, his solo record, was sort of like living in that in between, trying to like, oh, I'm a secular record, but I'm going to go and play at churches and do these like low key acoustic things at religious conferences and stuff like that. And man, I fucking hate, so like,
yeah.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm,
so, but, just that like, let the whiskey was my water and shit like that. And it's like, I hate, there's this really weird thing in Christianity. It might just be an evangelical Christianity, or things that come out of like the Southern Baptist tradition, like a lot of the non-denominational modern churches, where, like they want a testimony. They want a testimony from you. They want to hear a nice story about how you were living in sin and then you found Jesus. And so like a song where you're talking about whiskey was my water and shit like that, and it's like I was so lost. It's like I don't.
It all feels very performative.
Yeah,
to me.
Yeah, and in my rawness, I was like, Ed is that kid in high school that seemed edgy because he was reading about philosophy and Buddhism, but ended up wearing a vest over a t-shirt and preaching at a non-denominational pseudo-conservative church. So anyway, yeah. Whatever. And that album's really generic musically. And that's another thing about songs from Black Mountain. Like that the music on that album could have been recorded by anybody.
Sure.
There's one song on there where it's like starts off with like a cool guitar thing. It's not even Greater Revolution. It just sounds like a U2 thing, like right. And it goes off for like 3 seconds, and Ed nopes the fuck out of it. It's like starts.
Doesn't happen again.
Right. And so then
that's what I'm saying though. I feel like for this album they were in such bad shape with one another that all of their good material both ways went to their respective albums.
Well, maybe so. Like I guess like the thing is that there's nothing on the Gracious Few that really felt like a live record to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily feel like those guys were saving stuff up.
Sure. Or maybe they just weren't able to write good stuff at all.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
And so then in 2014, the band put out a record without Ed. And this is one of the 4 really good live records. Lyrically, it's not a fucking mess. The melodies and hooks aren't there, are not as prevalent as they are with Ed. That is missing for sure. But the vibe is there. The songs are decent enough,
Did you put some of that on the playlist?
It's not on Spotify.
Okay. Oh, right.
I think I sent you a YouTube link.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's a few songs on there like this is fucking great. This is primo. This is what I want from this band. And I really feel like you got to give credit to Chris Shin, the guy who replaced Ed, for being able to do vocals and lyrics that sound like live without sounding like Ed.
Mm-hmm.
And so kudos to that dude for doing a really difficult fucking job. But yeah, I think that's a great record. Now, here's what's interesting. What all those records have in common, okay, is that they were all produced by Jerry Harrison of the Talking Heads.
Right.
So, and I'm gonna double check just to make sure I don't fuck this up. But yeah, like it was. Let's see. Yep, Jerry Harrison. And so he produced Mental Jewelry, Throwing Copper. He didn't do Secret Samadhi.
Right.
He did Distance to Here. He did not produce 5. He did not produce Birds of Prey. He did not produce Songs from Black Mountain, but he did produce The Turn. And so I think those are the only 4 actual good live records.
Talking Heads are a great band.
There you go, man. Like, it's so. I think that was really interesting when I kind of came across that and connected that. And you know, man, sometimes some bands just need an editor.
Totally.
You know, like someone needs to. Sometimes you just need someone there to let you know. You know, when you're on to something. Like, like, okay, that's the thread. Keep pulling on that thread. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what Jerry was for the band, and specifically for Ed. Right. Of like, nope, you had it right there. Keep doing that. You know? So,
yeah, I could see that.
All right. So now we're going to talk about 5.
Talk about Ed.
So I sent you an interview.
Yes, you did. So this was an interview from, what was Awake? Was it a DVD release that they did?
Yes, that came out in between Birds of Prey and Songs from Black Mountain.
So have you seen the DVD itself?
I own it.
So on the DVD, are these clips interspersed with like footage of the band or videos or something like that?
No.
It's all just one shot like that.
I think so.
So
that means that there was that means that there was other shit that he said that they were like, don't put that in there.
But not only that, the stuff that they did put in there, them motherfuckers knew that he sounded crazy, and they edited it to be more obvious.
You think so?
I definitely know so.
I think that. What if that was the best they could get?
Maybe it's both, because there are absolutely parts where the 5 thing is a great example, because they're just going on about stuff, and at the very end of the conversation about 5, before they move on to Birds of Prey, they cut back to him at a different part of the interview, and he's like, "That's our 5th album. It's called 5. I came up with that." Oh no, I'm sorry. It's our 5th album, so it's called 5. And for the first time throughout all of this, you hear the interviewer say, "Who came up with that?" The lady, she asked him, and he goes, "I did. Me." And then they cut. That's it. That was the whole clip. That was all from that part of the conversation that they put in there. They fucking knew.
What I thought was hilarious is whenever they brought up, there was only one other thing they said about 5, which is like, we gave away the song Overcome.
Right.
They don't talk about a single other fucking track on that record. They don't talk about a single thing.
Right. So, an overarching, okay, so I'm sure that there was more said that they cut, or that they didn't include at the very least. Ed did not ever mention the other members of this band one time.
He didn't.
In this whole interview.
He sure didn't.
He talked about like the music being heavy. He talked about Lakini's Juice going, dun, dun, and he didn't even get the rhythm right, really. He didn't get the feel. I was like, for the fucking song.
Like he didn't even.
So
one of the Chads plays that part. I don't fucking know it.
Right. But every time he was talking about their songs, he was talking about it strictly from a lyrical perspective and from a mood, never music at all. Never didn't mention those other guys once. Not even once.
I didn't pick up on that, but you're right.
Man. This interview is fucking nuts, dude.
It is trippy. And so there was a whole lot. There was a lot in that clip. So so the thing where they're like talking about just being kids caught in the music, and once in a while like you stick your head up and seeing like, oh, well, we're on magazines. How about that? Like trying to like play this shit down. It's like, dude, you recorded your 2nd album in Jamaica. Like you said, hey, we like that costs a lot of money. That costs you could do it now for a lot cheaper, you know, because you could record a whole full length with like what I got fucking laying around here. Like we can fit this in fucking just any room in fucking Jamaica.
Right.
I don't think you could do that in 1994, 95 when they would have been recording Secret Samadhi. Like
way tougher, far more unlikely.
So like you're talking like I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if you're talking like $100,000, couple $100,000 to get that record made. you know? Like, don't fucking give me this, like, we didn't know we were famous.
Well, as Ed mentions in the interview, he may not have known how much this actually cost because he makes it a point to say, well, you know, we just had people paying our bills for us and getting our groceries for us.
He did say that.
We didn't actually know how to live as people. So he makes it a point to say, I didn't know what I was doing. So it's entirely possible he had no idea what it cost. Jamaica's just a place you can go sometimes if you want to.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Ed comes off in this interview as it was something that you said the last time, but this like exemplified it. He was just a kid who never, you know, for good or ill, he just kind of never learned how to grow up. And he says as much in this interview.
He does say that.
Where he says, something I felt like a 17-year-old, and now here I am at 30-something, and I still feel like a 17-year-old inside. I'm like, yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And there's good.
That's not a inherently bad thing,
right? Because whenever people say that and they mean it in a good way, what it's saying is that I feel like I am able to touch the open-mindedness and fearlessness of being creative and taking risks. Of a, you know, I'm not
completely cynical or jaded or any of these things. Yeah.
But the other thing is that when you're, you know, man, the downside of it is thinking that like a 17-year-old thinking that you already know everything and that you're invincible.
Yeah.
And that you are able to know everything.
Yeah.
And that's the negative side of it. That's the,
that feeling is not inherently bad, but based on everything else Ed says in this interview about how he thinks and what he looks for and what he enjoys about the job and all these other things, it makes it very clear that he is just he has never grown up from that 17-year-old kid.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and then again, like in a sense, you can't blame him for being in that spot because it's like, yeah, you got famous as a 20-year-old for thinking the things you thought when you were 20.
Yeah.
So, you know, I guess this is what happens when you let that guy make it to 34. So there's an aspect of that, but also at the same time, you know, I think that you should have some responsibility to be like, okay, I know that most people need to know what things cost and have to go get their groceries. So I need to do something so I can get fucking grounded. You know, you should know. I know those recording budgets fucking got smaller as those albums went along. I hope that grounded him.
Yeah, because you have to imagine he's wondering like, well, why can't we get the bigger studio?
Why can't we get the bigger studio? What do you mean we only have 3 weeks to record?
What do you mean? Just sing the song. Well, why not? Okay, fine.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, like, there's something to. Let me see what I was trying to about this interview. It's like he's trying to talk about. Okay, I'm gonna try to get this across without sounding really classist and elitist here. Okay. So there's something to him talking about these deep philosophical things, but not going to college. Just hear me out, okay? And so that might be a possible path for the hubris to sneak in. Now, there's plenty of fucking arrogant, stupid assholes that finish college.
Oh yeah.
But like what I'm getting at is that if you're going to hey, I am going to study philosophy. That's a really difficult thing to do on your own. Or I'm going to study this religion that I have no real cultural reference for. Like, you're only going to be able to see that through your own cultural lens. And so just reading one Krishnamurti book is not going to be enough. Like, you're going to have to immerse yourself in that in a certain sense, and you're going to have to, you know, you're going to have your perspective challenged. You're going to have to be told like, no, you don't have that right. Here in your third paragraph, you said this is this, and that's not what that means. That's not what Buddhism is saying. And like you're gonna, and I think that maybe there's a through line there of that he perhaps has sort of always, maybe that's what it is. It's a kind of a shallow spirituality, but his shallow, like 10% spirituality was more than what 90% of people were doing. So it would still work on us at parties in the 90s.
Sure. Sure, exactly. I think that's exactly right.
You know what I mean? And like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, he's a shitter because he didn't finish college. That's way too simplistic. But
right. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But if you would have had the opportunity, the privilege, the luck to take a really good philosophy class from a really good philosophy professor, you would have some checks and balances in place on before some of these ideas got out of hand.
Like the way the things that he says in this interview and the way he comes off, it just sounds like a dude who heard about this stuff once.
Yeah.
And then maybe had a conversation or two, and he's really good at, because there are people who are really good at not picking up on, but like remembering ideas.
Sure.
You don't even really know what it is that you're referring to when you talk about the thing, but you know what about the thing. You know about the thing. You don't know the thing.
Right. And you can take those, it's like how you can take the words that are used to wrap that idea up, and you can sort of you can like rearrange them, and you can kind of start to use them the way, because maybe you're just really charismatic and you're good at talking.
Yeah, and that's very much how he comes off in this interview.
Sure.
Like he never actually learned all this stuff, but he knows about it.
So some of my favorite pretentious things he said in that interview.
My top 10 list.
I
wish I'd kept a fucking list because there are so many good ones.
I still have so much to learn from the songs I've written.
Yeah. Oh, man. The look on his face when he said it, too. I wish they would have had both cameras set up so I could see the person he was talking to. I so wish, yeah.
Probably maybe look like Mike Myers.
Right.
We've always had an incredible relationship with our female fans. The fact that we're loud doesn't bother the ladies.
Oh. So you can read that line, but until you hear him say it and the way that he says it, it's so much scummier, dude.
Yeah, it is scummy.
It's
and I remember, so as I was like ending up like on like different YouTube videos and comment threads and shit like that. Like I remember seeing there seemed to be a little bit of a consensus. Like I saw this idea, like, I mean, this is fucking hearsay, of course, but it corroborates with this in a certain sense of like, because I think it was someone was talking about like stuff on the turn, and they were like, yeah, man, these guys are great, blah, blah, blah. Like I had a chance to meet them. They were all really cool and really, really nice. And then like someone was like, yeah, Ed was really cool until there was a hot girl around or something like that. So someone someone was throwing that idea out there and whatnot, which then given some of the lyrics on 5 make things like that a little, because, all the other records, he's like just seems like just a very sensual, loving man.
Oh, he knows that.
And whatnot, like it could seem like all of the love aspects of it are maybe just directed at like one person, like it's just to his high school sweetheart who eventually was his wife.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Okay,
like I want to dance with you and blah 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 entwined and blah 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 blah. But on 5, what he sings about it becomes very. It's like it's you're talking about like fucking girls at a club and like
right.
Bow everybody at the hotel and shit like that. And it's like,
right.
Like it's a different fucking thing going on there.
Like that's another aspect of it. It just doesn't feel like he ever really grew up, because that's the kind of way that a 17-year-old would talk about women.
Yep. Yep.
And he
I'm so excited to read this next one.
shit, what were you? Okay, well, go ahead. Yeah,
You sure?
carry on. Yes.
This is so not really into politics. My forte as an artist is to affect people's inner space.
Inner space, yes. And bands like System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine, they have good minds for that. They're smart people about that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, and then
It's not that what did he say? It's not that I don't think it's. He didn't say important, but he said.
yeah, he didn't try to brush off political music as being less than.
Right, but it was weird the way he said it because he was like, to me, it's not that it doesn't seem valid. He didn't say important. He said like valid. So he didn't acknowledge that political music was important.
Okay.
But he said it's not for him. It was just a weird,
roundabout
way to say I don't fucking care about it or whatever.
Or to, and like this, like I'm going to humble brag. And like what I think is more important is people's inner space.
Yeah.
And what you
maybe.
see in there is you see a little seed of new age bullshittery, which is change yourself and you'll change the world. Which is like what is so problematic about those philosophies and why they work so synergistically with people who don't want to acknowledge racism is because it's like, no, man, it's your fucking problem,
Right.
And if you want the world to be a better place, you need to clean your own room, and you need to make yourself better. And then that will elevate the consciousness of the world. And like, and it's like, there's no amount of me making myself better that's going to make people more likely to call me back for a job interview if my name happens to be Jamal.
Yeah.
Like that shit's outside of that person's control. And that type of philosophy doesn't have a way to account for that.
Right.
So
So the other thing that I was going to bring up was back to the sensual stuff because he made it a point to bring that up as well, is how sensual music is and how sexual it is for him. But the faces that he was making while he was saying this, presumably to the reporter, who again I wish I could have seen her reactions to this, were just the like creepy. Like I don't want to. There are aspects of how he's saying things and the things that he says that come off as like you're a fucking pickup artist. But I don't think he is. But there are aspects of it that, but it's just, it's creepy. And it's like, I don't know if he fully knows. I think he's just being himself.
Right. And it's, like charisma is a weird thing because when it works, it works. But then when you try to be that person when it's not working and you can't tell that it's not working,
Right.
Because I've been that guy. It's looking back, it's like, oh dude, that's creepy as fuck. Like that's awful. And that's like narcissistic and extremely self-centered and, like not knowing your audience because you think that you're the lead character all the fucking time.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm glad you watched that interview because it's,
Dude, that was a hell of a
trip,
thing.
right?
Hell of a thing.
Here's another random thing. A
Yeah.
stunning study in ego gone awry. just Ed thoughts, Ed things.
Oh, so I was very keen after I watched the interview to scroll down to the comments of the YouTube video and see.
Oh yeah, what were those like? I didn't look at any of that.
I wanted to see what people, how crazy did people think Ed had been portrayed here? Because I thought he was very fucking crazy. But no, by and large, the comments were like, yeah, Ed, you're great. Stick it to him, Ed. You tell him, we love you, Ed.
you tell him. Stick it to him.
It was just the Truman Show, who the fuck are you talking to gif. It was I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a fan base that's never going away. And that's
right.
What do you expect?
And that's what's kind of weird for me too, is I don't know any of those fucking people.
Sure.
My whole experience with loving this band and loving this music has happened completely
Right.
on my own, and with the unfortunate girls that the poor souls that I dated in the 2000s, whom I subjected to Distance to Hear ad nauseum. I didn't make them listen to the other shit, but I made them listen to Distance to Hear. So I'm sorry if you're listening. I'm sure I made a few of them listen to this one, to Birds of Prey too, because I was like, look, it doesn't suck. But definitely made them listen to lots of Distance to Hear. So my apologies. All right. Save the worst for last.
All right.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the moment when things went wrong. So, I found this article, and they mention something about Five, and I like the way that they say this. You know, by 2001, rock music had come to be dominated by the testosterone-heavy posturing of nu metal and rap rock acts. Live's emotive rock, much like fellow 90s groups such as Counting Crows, was beginning to seem antiquated. And so their new release, Five, found Live awkwardly trying to find a place in this new landscape. Ed Kowalcyk spoke of hearing Limp Bizkit at a party and really, quote-unquote, getting it.
You got it.
The first single off of the album, Simple Creed, was revved up and featured a rap verse from Tricky, and Deep Enough was based around clumsy and unconvincing bravado.
Yeah, it was.
So, on that note, we should read some of these lyrics.
Clumsy and unconvincing bravado.
So, I'm just going to be reading some shitty lyrics for a few minutes. So,
I believe a word that you mentioned a number of times previous session was braggadocious.
Braggadocious. So, I think this is important because, there's this guy named Robert Evans who he does like the Behind the Bastards podcast and a bunch of other ones. Anyway, great journalist, does incredible stuff. Sometimes when he doesn't have an idea for an episode, he'll just take some random shitty book, and him and some friends will just read chapters from it, like a Ben Shapiro book. And they'll just like pick a page randomly on the Kindle and they'll read out of it, and then they'll make fun of it and have a good old fucking time.
Cool.
And so something that he says is that someone who, like, before anyone runs for office, that they should be forced to write a novel so that you get to know what they really fucking think.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
And so I almost feel that's what writing rap is like, in a sense, because I don't know. It's such a vulnerable. It's just you. And you can't say, no, the meaning is in the la da 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 da's. You can't say, no, man, it's in these fucking words. And so I don't think you can hide in it too much. Like if someone, if someone's like, hey man, you got like if you got to talk for fucking 3 hours, there's not as many places to hide. So,
yeah.
So I feel that's the thing, right? Is that I feel like what is so problematic to me about this record is that I think that Ed meant all this.
Mm-hmm.
Simple Creed. So, born with your back to the god that spit you out on the riverbed. Angry at who? Me? You better back up, fool. I bet you took a gun to school, too. But now, nobody's taking your candy. You just keep on living this tragedy. La da 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 da. To each his own, but I wait for you to take my hand. Because we need each other. We gotta love each other. And second verse continues on pretty similar. You know, you better back up, fool, and be grateful that the real me is always hiding from you. Now nobody's taking your bicycle. Maybe somebody should take your microphone. Something, something, something. But I wait for you to understand that we need each other. We got to love each other. And so this is fucking weird and gross to me. Because in it, I feel like it's kind of like the nucleus of, though that verse is like the nucleus of like, okay, well, here's his interpretation of what hip hop is. It's singing fast and talking shit. And beating your chest, you know, and that's it.
That was another thing that I guess got cut off last time was Ed's version of rapping just seems to be him singing a little bit faster than normal.
Right.
Not adding any additional like flair or anything else really at all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so just to address, yeah, man. Yeah, because fuck. it's just so much. It's just so much. It's overwhelming. So like when you hear Corey Taylor rap on like Spit It Out or something like that, it's like, oh, that motherfucker really fucking listens to rap music. Like he didn't get that from Fred Durst. You know what I mean? Like he got that from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Or if you listen to like the Machine Head songs where Rob raps, like on Burning Red and shit like that, it's like, oh, well, he fucking listens to Eazy-E. You know what I mean? Like there's a clear like love of the genre in there or whatever. And it's
or at least some experience with the genre.
Yeah.
At the very least.
and it stayed with their artistic identity, right? Like Rob never like completely put down his hip hop influence. You know what I mean? Neither did Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
Someone else who I thought like did it well was Justin Furstenfeld from Blue October. You know, there's this record, Any Man in America, where there's just straight up fucking rap songs, but he was using it as a tool to express that whole, you know, like bipolar fucking schizo sincerity, tell more truth than I should thing that he does. And so he was using it as a tool to do that, to express what he already expresses. And so that's why I really liked it and I resonated with it. There's not like, this is not what people who listen to live for.
Right.
Like if I wanted, you know what I mean? Like this isn't it, you know, like people, like we already have the Red Hot Chili Peppers, dude. We already have Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Yeah. We don't need you guys doing this. And it didn't show up on any, like Ed never rapped again. Like, right. Like he just, you know, it's kind of gross, right? Because it's like he just like used that shit transactionally almost. Like maybe like, oh, well, cool. This is hip now. Or maybe I just feel like this is going to get me some attention, or this is going to, the audience is going to respond to this. And then, or like he just needed to sow his wild rap rock oats and he got out of his system, and then he could get on with being born again.
Yeah. I would love to have been a fly on the wall of those like conversations about that album in particular.
Well, and that's what's crazy too, is you know that like some manager, like his manager, someone's like, oh, this will be great. This will be amazing.
Probably.
And, you know, again, like someone was going to make money off of that dude's confidence.
Sure, totally.
You know? And so, all right, so Deep Enough. We hit the room, me and my crew.
Ed has a crew.
He means the literal road crew?
Yeah, the people who he pays to be with him.
Yes.
Yeah, specifically. No one wants to be there. No one's there voluntarily.
It was cool until we bumped into you. Now it's been years, but there you were like a Mustang redlining every single gear with a man that danced like he was born in 59, but lost his groove back when Jesus died. I want to know, are those replacement hips? Is that a Swatch watch? Do you know what time it is? So...
What? You're talking shit about Swatch watches, man.
I don't even know what a Swatch watch is.
Hey, so well, Swatch is like it's a Swedish watch company, but the reason I know Swatch watches is because they came up in the late 90s. They came up with like a new protocol, I guess, for telling time.
Okay.
Which is called Swatch Internet Time.
Okay.
And you measure it in 1 day is 1,000 beats. And you subdivide the day up into that.
Okay.
So at any given time, you can say, oh, it's 528 beats. And someone else knows what time that is. The catch is, there's no time zones. This is a cross-world thing.
I see. I can see how that would be useful.
Yeah, so in some ways, like UTC time in technology world. So that's what Swatch is famous for. Why is he talking shit about Swatch, man?
Well, and it's funny too because it's like he was born in 49. It's like, all right, so this was like 2001. So this dude's like 50.
Yeah.
So you're like you're mad at a girl that's dancing with a dude who's 50.
Yeah, and his hips might be replacement hips. What?
Right. He's just old. He's like, oh, he's just making fun of an old guy.
Yeah.
Does he run it? It's like, dude, you're like, like how hold on. We keep referencing this. We need to know. We need to know exactly how old fucking Ed Kowalcyk is.
I guess he ain't too far.
Yeah, man, it's not like you're fucking 18.
He ain't far enough to be saying this shit anyway.
Yeah. God damn it. I'm being bad at Googling here.
There he is.
71. Yeah,
Okay.
so he was 30.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like you man.
Listen, man, your health was declining already.
All right, one more. So like, and this is deep enough. So like, does he run it deep enough to take you there? Like, oh, is he gonna fuck you good? We hit the couch. The place was packed with sweaty palms. Can't even read it. Hold on, let me try again.
What?
Hold on. We hit a couch. The place was packed with sweaty palms, sweaty thongs, and sweaty backs. It's so hard to say this with, and this motherfucker rapped this with like intensity, like, oh, this line's gonna get him.
Yeah.
My mouth was dry, my brain cold high, whatever that means. The groove was right, so I decided to ignite. Even his rhyme scheme is shitty. Your eyes met mine, your skirt began to rise, and so did I. Oh, your dick got hard. That's nice. Now you know that I took that prize in the middle of the club,
But wait, why did the skirt begin to rise? Because he was pulling it up?
Or she was pulling it up. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, his dick got hard,
Yeah.
her skirt began to rise, and he took that prize right there in the middle of the club,
In the middle of the club.
This is just such a far cry from the previous album of I Want to Dance With You, The Jaws of Kali Yuga, and Who Put the Flower in That Gun, and
Yeah.
Can You Hear the Dolphins Cry?
Yeah, come to the water.
Yeah. Not come to the club and
Not come in the club.
Yeah, and I'll like fuck you dry, like right there in front of God and everybody.
Christ.
Right in the jaws of Kali Yuga.
Oh man. Oh, that was another thing in the interview where he's going on about come to the water, and he's like, because like the water I identify like with life, man. He's like, life is a fluid, like it's water, and he's talking about the video because they keep referencing the videos that they've made, and he's like, in that video, just like the water, most of that water was real, and just.
He does say that.
Most of the water was real.
He does say that.
Because they're talking about how they use these crazy effects in the video.
Right.
There are no effects in the video until the very end. There's a shitty explosion, and presumably half of that water was fake. But he's like, I really liked that video, man. It was kind of like Blade Runner looking, man. And I was like, man, that video, as far as you know in that video, you just like water, motherfucker. You're at the sink, you're getting a drink of water, the rain comes down, and at the end, you're getting some more water out of the sink. There's no metaphor here.
There's no metaphor. Oh, that's great. I'm going to save it real quick.
Okay. Fair point.
Yeah, no, I'm just paranoid. Since we lost the last one, I'm like, all right, this is, I don't want to lose it.
Okay, fair.
All right. So let's keep on going.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, like you take those lyrics and you put them in context with the other stuff. And it's like, oh man, he's a shit. People like you, In a dream I had, I was on stage with Queen, Michael Stipe, and Elton John, Bono, and Springsteen singing Hallelujah, rock and roll is king. So you're putting yourself on stage in rarefied fucking air there, Ed.
Yeah.
Because these are the differences. These are all people who are still culturally relevant.
I was gonna say, because in the interview he rattles off, I think, that same list of people.
Similar. It's different.
Is it similar? Okay.
Yeah, he says Michael Stipe, Bono, and Perry Farrell.
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
And so he didn't mention Perry Farrell in here. Apparently, Perry Farrell wasn't good enough to be on the stage with Ed.
A rung too low.
Yeah. So, and then the chorus of this song, it's just people like you. Whatever it's gonna take, good luck, keep it real. Where are the boys in live? They're pissing in the mainstream.
Right.
Open up your cage, focus all your rage. The world needs people like you.
Oh, it's like a Smashing Pumpkins takedown.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? It's hard for it to not come off that way. But yeah, is that what y'all are doing? Y'all been pissing in the mainstream? Is that it? That's what you'd call this? That's what you call this record?
When
pissing in the mainstream?
When you go to the water, is that where you're going to? You going to the stream?
Yeah, you're so hydrated. But now you have to urinate, and you're in the mainstream. So where else could you urinate but in the mainstream? Pissing in the mainstream. All right.
Yeah.
Transmit your love. This one is one of the more egregious ones to me. Bow, bow, everybody in the hotel. Bow, bow, everybody in the motel. God damn it.
Done. We're good.
This is it. This is gross. Don't knock if the door to my suite is closed. All right, fine. Cool. Whatever.
Yeah. You put your do not disturb sign out there, and it's, yeah.
You should have come to the show. Don't knock if the door to my suite is closed. You should have come to the show. That's like, you don't get to fuck me if you don't come to my show. You don't get to bask in my presence unless you come to my show.
Right.
You just heard that I'm famous and I was here, but you don't get me. You don't get
all this.
You don't get this. You don't get these eyebrows. You don't get this. So, but you didn't. Now you're wishing that you had. But you had to go to Jimmy Buffett with your dad. With Live, it's Game 7 every single night. You have to put it on the line to step inside.
It's really fortunate that Jimmy Buffett and Live were playing at the same time in the same town, in close enough proximity to this hotel, because they didn't have ride sharing at this point. Otherwise, how could this song have worked? Oh, with your dad. Also, her dad presumably brought her to the hotel to see Ed. What?
You had to go to Jimmy Buffett with your dad? Like, it's and then what is so egregious about like this fucking record is that you have these just like fucking rap rock verses with stupid gross lyrics, and then it goes into this like, full on live normal unity pop fucking chorus,
Right.
Transmit your love to me, silently make me whole again, transmit your love to me. And it's beautiful melodies and all that sort of stuff. And like this song though, it becomes clear to me that it's like, oh, well, if the dice would have been rolled differently, Ed would have been a cult leader. Bow, bow, put your ear to the door, and bow, bow, put your face to the floor, and through the cracks see the people kicking it inside and leaving it all behind in the name of love. We raise the roof in the name of love, do what we came to do in a town tonight where the streets have no name. And everybody feels the same. Here's the part. The outside world is a goddamn shame. That's the same shit that like a bunch of Southern pastors would always say when I was stuck in church when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like everyone in this room is cool. Everyone out there is
right.
So those are, Anyone out there, you ever hear that kind of language anywhere? Alarm bells go off. I don't care what I don't care if you're in gym class. I don't care wherever the fuck you are. If people talk about the people that are not in the room right now being bad, you're in a bad spot, man. Like, do you need to put up your fucking? You need to put your guard up, man, because that person's about to sell you on some bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, tell your leaders love is in town to turn this whole thing upside down. We can't take it anymore. Welcome to my world of love. Welcome to my space above this sacred love. Welcome to my space of bliss. This is a cult leader. That's cult shit, dude.
Go back to the first line, or the first couple lines here. So, bow, bow, hotel, whatever. Okay, wait. It's after that. Where was it? Oh, ear to the door. Yeah, ear to the door, bow, face to the floor. See people kicking it inside and leaving it all behind in the name of love. Is he talking about fucking like a cult killing themselves? Is that what that is? Because I'm picturing like Jonestown or some shit here. Leaving it all behind in the name of love.
Okay. So that's let's entertain that.
That's what that strikes me as at first. But like,
but that's not usually opposed. That's not usually that wouldn't have to do with kicking it.
Right.
Like,
yeah, for sure.
I think that it's more likely he's talking about a bunch of people, like a bunch of people just having uninhibited sex.
It's like an orgy, maybe.
I think that's more likely
because he does say like looking through the crack, like somebody's spying on somebody.
Yeah, like you can't get in because you didn't come to my show. Look underneath the crack of the door and see this fucking bliss happening in here.
Okay.
Because it's all about love. Transmit your love to me.
Got it.
You know.
But the bowing thing is very strange.
Yeah, and so I guess like, you know, if Ed was here, he'd probably be very mad at us.
Well, he would probably be glad to explain. I'm sure it's confusion.
And he would probably, he'd be like, I'm still waiting to see what that song has to teach me. It still hasn't taught me what it was about. And I guess like that sort of references, because something that you brought up the last time was like, is he playing a character?
Right.
And I think that interview shows that he isn't.
I agree wholeheartedly.
So
I retract my assertion.
Right. And like, that's the problem is that like, I think he means all these fucking lyrics. And I think that these lyrics, like they're just that, like, this is a window into what a middle-aged white spiritual rock star can muster to be angry and to be braggadocious about. Like, this is it. This is what he's got.
Like I think this kind of feeds back into just him not ever growing up. Like, this is what he knows. This is what he feels like the peak of this lifestyle can be.
Right.
In a weird way.
Right. And it's weird. Like, because when you look at the lyrical themes over the record, like one of the themes is like, people need to sit down and shut the fuck up and listen to and like love each other and like listen to me. I have the answer. You need to love each other.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, that's a good message, man. That's not a bad message. It might be a little simplistic or shallow or not necessarily useful. But it's not bad. But it's weird to put that in the context of like tearing people down, like,
Yeah.
Like maybe someone should take your microphone. Nobody's taking your bicycle, right. Or whatever. Don't you know that we need to? I wait for you to understand. I wait for you to take my hand and understand that we need each other.
Right.
And it's like, do you like put out like at the sign at like a pizza buffet, like eat less to lose weight? 2 for 1. You know what I mean? Like,
well, no, he doesn't put out the sign. He stands there with a pamphlet that you can't see what it says. You have to go up to him
yes.
and ask him for it.
Uh-huh.
He already knows the answer.
You have to look under the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, and Yeah, like, and I think that's sort of an aspect of why this like makes me why like all the unity talk and shit like that like feels so gross to me, is because, well, it's because I used to sling that unity shit at some point in time, you know, and usually when you're calling for unity, what you're really saying is that like people who have problems need to shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah, it's, like you said, it's not inherently a bad message.
it's not, but how is it functioning?
Yeah.
Right? How is it functioning in a dialogue?
When are you saying it? Who are you saying it to?
Right.
It's a very important part of this.
Right. And oftentimes whenever I was younger and I felt compelled to say that, it was whenever marginalized people or people who had legitimate problems were trying to address those problems. And it's like, no, unity, all together, we're all together, you know? And that's just like, will you stop making me uncomfortable with all of your problems? You're really harshing my mellow.
Yeah.
And it's gross and it's stupid and it's disrespectful and it minimizes the experience of others.
For sure.
And that is that's one of the reasons I'm so like, why these lyrics hit a nerve for me now is because you know, I don't know, I see like the alternate path, right? That could be me in a sense. All right, we're almost done. And then with just the lyrics.
Oh no.
Then we're going to go over his tattoos. No. But yeah, so in this one's the ride. So this is that juxtaposition one. In the East, they can meditate, they can recreate the sound of Om and bring us home. I think I'll go there someday, maybe for a holiday, maybe just light a candle and take a seat for a ride. You know, no big deal. Like this isn't that bad, but I'm just pointing it out because it's another like juxtaposition, right? In the West, we think we're the best. We've shown the whole wide world that money is all we care for. Now, someday the scientists will see there's no such thing as gravity.
What?
They'll all just light a candle, take a seat for a ride. So so much like on the next album where he's going to talk about like in the country, they really got it figured out. Here, he's talking about like in the East, they really got it figured out. Mm-hmm. Here, we're just all about money. And even scientists got it wrong.
Right.
Which is just fucking gross. It's just word salad, man.
It feels like that one kind of came out of nowhere, like related to this other stuff.
This is a Distance to Hear throwaway track. You know what I mean? Is how I would categorize this one. So this one doesn't have an egregious rap verse, but it just has like some gross philosophy in it that is, you know. And again, and that's sort of a problem.
I feel like Jerry Harrison was like, you need to throw that shit the fuck out.
It's not on my record.
Not on my watch, motherfucker.
And that is kind of the problem of the sort of the exoticism, you know, that draws people who want to be special to being interested in Eastern religions, is that you're going to impose, like you're going to assume that it has everything right that your interpretation of your current culture has wrong.
Sure.
And so, and it doesn't, you don't actually give a shit what how those people relate to their own fucking religion. Like,
yeah,
you're just like, they got it right. They get it over there. And then if someone wants to actually talk to you about the problems or the this or the that, or like, oh no, there's sexual abuse issues with inside these religions and stuff like that as well. Like, you don't want to hear that,
right?
You know,
there's some weird need there for there to be a correct answer.
Yeah. Like to me, my read on it is like there is a need for a hierarchy.
Yeah. And
so, and you're like, well, our hierarchy is wrong. That's the right hierarchy. What you think is low is actually high. And then there's last one here. Like, this is the Red Hot Chili Peppers ripoff song. Like, I'm not okay with this TV in my face and liar after liar with nothing but nothing. What? Oh, I'm sorry. And liar after liar with nothing about nothing higher. Oh, okay. Like, oh, there's nothing good on TV. I want to see stuff that's about high. I want to higher things,
Right.
Y'all are just liars. I'm on the outside peering into your world, and all the boys and girls are singing, save me from the one who only rapes me. That's a real strong word to throw into this context of I don't see things I like on television.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's understands the weight of that word, which fits in with some of this other stuff. So,
Like,
and
who's
then
he referring to there?
I don't know. And then here's the rap verse, the rap bridge. I don't give a fuck what you say about me. Everything you are is just a tool to me. So just set up the mic and let me do my thing in the consciousness of each and every sentient being. Oh, hold on. In the consciousness of each and every sentient being, raining down like a thunderstorm into your mind. Maybe not the first, the second, or even the third time, but eventually you won't be able to put me down. You'll be having me with breakfast in your coffee grounds. So,
Oh man.
so that's
The best part of waking up.
is
Kowalcyk in your cup.
Kowalcyk in your cup. Yeah. And so there it is. Like there's,
There it is.
Well, that's all the lyrics and stuff. So there's a few more things I wanted to fucking riff on because I had to do a lot of reflecting.
Okay.
And understand that the reason that all of this, first of all, why was I interested enough in this? Like why, and why did this bother me so much? Because there's other bands I've been fans of and then they make a turn and I'm like, whatever, you did that thing. Cool. Right. But I was really captivated by Ed's arc. And I think it's because I've done all those things. Like I was really into Eastern mysticism and all that sort of stuff in high school. The very first book I got into, like a big pathway for me into getting into physics, which I got a degree in and like a huge portion and path of my life and my career for a long time.
Yeah.
The first book that I really read about it was called The Dancing Wooly Masters. And it was all about connecting physics to Eastern, to Taoism and Buddhism. And so I'm that fucking philosophy kid, and I've written some really bad rap verses that I just haven't had the confidence to perform anywhere. I almost did some at a poetry night.
Oh.
And I didn't. Thank God. Because I didn't have a manager. No one was going to make money off my confidence. They were like, "Oh, you're just an overweight community college teacher. You're just an overweight adjunct. No one, no future in this for me." And some of those like bad rap verses are spoken word poetry were real defensive about like being called racist or being insinuated, so I was like using black culture to critique black culture, because I was triggered by the idea that someone would even insinuate I was less than a paragon of virtue when it came to all things race. And I've done the born again Christian thing too.
Right.
And I cannot. That's maybe one of the biggest ones I want to like riff on is that it's really difficult to put into words how much of an incentive there is for you to be a musician, and then like a secular musician. And then convert to being a member of a church.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of money in it. just straight up. But
even aside from money, there is a lot of social. It's really difficult to sort of put into words that allure of, you will be instantly accepted universally across this entire community. And not only that, you will be revered in a sense, like there's something extra about you because you were out and you were in the world and you were a musician, you were on the stage, you were living in sin and you were, and now you've got a really good testimony that you can tell on stage. And you can get the kids excited. Like they almost look at you as like a really good get for the company.
Sure.
They would never say it in those words, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is like all of that creates like there's a lot of pressure and you're treated really special.
Sure.
Because I was the atheist playing in church every week because a really great friend of mine was a music pastor, and we had known each other from like playing in bar bands together, and he needed a drummer, and I was a good drummer, so and I was reliable and all that sort of stuff. So, and I didn't mind playing. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a philosophical or moral qualm against playing music, so I did. But whenever I, opened my mind to it, my heart to it, was willing to say the words, it was just like instant acceptance into this community. And it was something that I didn't really have armor against, in a sense. And so like so the thing is that I know that this is like a buzzword and it sounds like, or, some people tune out when they hear this word, but, it's hard to talk about this for me without talking about like patriarchy and masculinity. And so the thing is that if tracking as masculine is important to you, which it was to me when I was younger, so that might be being angry, which that's what it was for me. Or it might be being sexual. Like I'm always fucking. I'm a man. I'm a man because I'm having sex. And when you get hit with this like born again kind of thing and pull you into this, it's almost like, hey guys, you can let all that go. Here we do patriarchy right.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you get all those buttons pushed. You're a fucking man, but you're a man for Jesus. And that means you're the highest of all the men. But it also gives you a way to let go of some of these behaviors that can be kind of toxic,
right, and
damaging for you.
Yeah.
But while still not addressing the real issue.
They tell you that it's okay to turn that stuff off.
Right, like, and they give you like a framework of like, well, see, that was sin, and that was this, and that was that, and now you don't have to do that, and now you're saved, and blah blah blah, and da 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 da, and you just need to work on your walk with the Lord, blah 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 blah, and but, and so I want to like, so I see parallel, like if it was intoxicating for me as a fucking nobody. Like how fucking intoxicating would it be for someone like Ed? Like how good of a grab would it have been to get Ed?
Sure.
And how much sort of instant adoration and respect and he would have gotten for being like a rock star that was then talking about Jesus and that kind of approval, because man, like, I like being on stage. I have a podcast with my fucking name on it, okay? Like, hearing the crowd short circuits my shit, okay?
Sure.
You know, like I guess that was good. You know what I mean? And it's like if you know,
fair.
So anyway, I just wanted to kind of, throw that kind of stuff out there,
Yeah, like in a way, like in Ed's defense, almost like you can see how that happens. You can see what's alluring about that.
Right. Yeah. Like it's like a patriarchal chink in your armor. Like if you don't know what that is and you haven't ever been taught what that was, you haven't ever been exposed to these ideas of like, or are exposed to ideas of hierarchies or whatever, or like all that sort of stuff, then someone saying like, hey man, do you need a daddy? Well, I know the biggest daddy. No. My daddy's in the sky. No. And this daddy's always been your daddy. And he's always been waiting for you to come home. And
Big Daddy. No.
Yeah. And so so I think that's why one of the reasons, because you get so much approval. And they like all of that performative masculinity that you've been trying to do by like being angry or by being violent sometimes or by being reckless and impulsive. Because I know people who like, that's the only reason I was able to get rid of my cocaine habit was I found the Lord. Like some people that like they, and because they're trading in a kind of like performative, reckless masculinity for like sky daddy masculinity. Like here, we do patriarchy right. We do patriarchy in a healthy way here is kind of like the olive branch that community offers to you, Yeah. So I just, all the criticisms I give to Ed, just a lot of it is me criticizing myself and criticizing a younger version of myself. And it's like, knowing that I would have done the same or worse if I would have like been in those situations, like there's no way that if I was talking on a camera when I was 22, there's no way I wouldn't have been saying some pretentious shit.
Totally. I mean, yes, if we had access to this sort of thing or social media in general when we were that age,
right,
the shit that we would have said, I'm sure we did say.
Right. And like the ego that it would have, and like the ego that it would have, the way our egos would have been inflated if we would have actually garnered success and careers. And so much so that we didn't have to go to college. We're like, no, this is what our life is. Yeah. For thinking these things and doing these things that we do when we're fucking 22, there's no incentive for you to have your viewpoints challenged and
totally.
And grow and all those types of things, So,
yeah.
But yeah, I've done all that shit. I'm above all this, I'm above casual sex and drugs and substances and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, I wasn't. Like I wasn't above casual sex. Casual sex was something that hurt me when other people did it because I saw women as possessions. Like I didn't, it's like, oh, well, that's a person doing what that person wants to do. I was like, no, that's like my favorite tool attacking me. So because it's fucking toxic bullshit, But anyway, I think that's it. So yeah, that's the caveat, right? Is that like a lot of the criticism I'm given is some of it is definitely projection. So
yeah, and like I feel like it's kind of been maybe unsaid this whole time. We've been fucking going on and on about Ed, but like I don't think Ed is a fucking terrible person. But I can see how he got to where he is.
Yeah.
Or was, at that time. And kept going that way.
Right. And it's really because, you know, man, like, I don't fucking know. Like, this is the thing is it's, you know, if I ever had an opportunity to have a conversation with him, I might be like, all right, well, I was completely wrong about all of that. And like, you know, I should, you know, there were things I didn't understand. There were things I was missing. So, you know, I don't want this to be a come off as like a shit talking session.
Yeah.
But more as a legitimate confusion from someone whose art meant the absolute world to me. And then also reflecting on that journey, seeing parallels of that journey to my own, and then, you know, I can't not fill in some blanks and add context, you know. So yeah, man, it's what a mess. What a mess. I think that's it.
What a ride.
I think we did it.
Ed, you took us to the water.
So much water. So much water. All right.
Oh boy. It's done. You can put 5 down now.
You can put it away. All right. Okay. Thank you, Robert, for dealing with that shit.
Yeah, hey man, like I would never have been able to draw all the lines between all these different things. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I there's still I'll probably end up like writing a blog or something, like writing something up about it, because they're not all quite connected. I think I hit most of them, but you know, it's long.
Yeah.
I guess it's.
I mean, I could have talked for another half hour about that goddamn interview.
It was something, right?
It was really something.
So
there was a lot more that while I was watching it, I was like, I want to mention that, but I didn't take notes. So
yeah. So go check out. It's the interview from 2004 from the Awake DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to be reserved in my criticism until I saw that interview, and I was like, nope. He deserves this. He deserves this. Even if it was that he said, you know what? Yeah, put that on a fucking DVD and charge people money for that.
Right.
Like he looked at that and was like, yeah, that's me. I did it.
Literally said that.
So, all right, guys.
Anyway.
Adios.
Peace.